planning to learn Playwright, Cypress, or any modern automation tool, you will definitely see TypeScript everywhere. And here is the good news. TypeScript is just JavaScript with some extra safety. You don't need to master it. Just a few basics are enough. In this video, I will teach you exactly the TypeScript concepts testers actually use. Nothing extra, nothing unnecessary. By the end, you will be ready to write automation code confidently. So let's begin. Hello everyone, welcome to my channel WishInfinite. So what is TypeScript? TypeScript is simply JavaScript with types. It adds safety by catching errors during development instead of runtime. So think like this. JavaScript is flexible. TypeScript is safer and smarter JavaScript. So why TypeScript for automation? TypeScript provides better autocomplete, fewer bugs, and clear code. This makes automation framework easier to build, read, and maintain. That's why most modern automation frameworks recommend TypeScript by default. And core idea behind TypeScript is types. They define what kind of value a variable can store. So here we will tell variable what type of value it should store. That's it. And this prevents invalid data and reduce mistakes. Now let's talk about prerequisites. So here we are having three prerequisites: Node.js, VS Code, and TypeScript installed. Previously in JavaScript for Automation Tester video, I have already told you how to install Node.js and VS Code. But if you have not watched that video, here I will repeat the same. Although I would recommend you to watch that JavaScript related video first, so that you would be able to compare the difference between JavaScript and TypeScript. Now let's start with this Node.js download and installation. It is required to run JavaScript and TypeScript outside the browser. So now let's go to Google and here search for this Node.js download. Now here click onto this first link and here you would be able to see different options to select. Here you need to select the version. So you need to select the latest LTS version. LTS is for long-term support. For now, the latest LTS version is already selected, which is 24.13.0. In future, this version can change. You can select the latest LTS version. After that, we need to scroll down and here we are able to see Windows, as I am using Windows. If you are using any other operating system like macOS, Linux, so you can select the option according to that. And here for the Windows, the architecture is automatically selected, which is 64. And mostly in the new machines, you would be having this 64 only. But accordingly, you can change this option. Now here you need to click onto this Windows installer.msi, which will start the download. Once the download is completed, you would be able to see file here. You can directly click here to start the installation, or you can go to the specific folder and here you can just double click to start the installation. Now you need to click on next. Here click onto this I accept checkbox, then click next, and here no need to change the path. Click next, again next, next, and click on install, which will start the installation. I will just fast forward this particular part as it may take some time to install. Here in between, if you get any user account control pop-up where it asks, do you want to allow this app to make changes to your device? Just click yes. And then it will start the installation. And now installation is done. Here onto the setup wizard, you would be able to see this finish button. Just click on this and your Node.js is completely installed now. Now let's go to the second prerequisite, which is VS Code. Here we would be using VS Code, which is used to write, manage, and debug TypeScript projects. So see, you can use Notepad also to write the code. But here you will be getting auto suggestions, proper coloring, so that it would be easy for you to write the code and maintain that code. So that's why we are using VS Code. And when you would be using Playwright, Cypress, or any other automation tool, in that case also VS Code is going to be more helpful in terms of writing the code, managing the code, and debugging the code. Now to download the VS Code, go to the Google and search for this VS Code download. And here click onto this first link. Once you are onto this link, you can select the desired option to download. As I am using Windows, I will be clicking here. If you are using Mac or Ubuntu, you can select the desired option. For now, let me click here, which will start the downloading of the VS Code. I will just fast forward this downloading part. And here once the downloading is completed, you would be able to see this option here. Either you can directly click here onto this particular file, or you can go to the specific folder, which is downloads folder in my case. And here we can simply double click onto this file, which is VS Code user setup file. So double click here and here it will show the setup wizard. You just need to click onto this I accept the agreement, click next, 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 again next, and click on to install, which will start the installation process. I will just fast forward this particular part. And now here we can click onto this finish. This checkbox is automatically selected which is for launching VS Code. Let me click onto the finish and it will open the VS Code also. Next time also, if you want to open the VS Code, just click onto this Windows icon and search for Visual Studio Code. And here once you click here, it will open the VS Code. That's it. So now our two prerequisites are installed. One is Node.js and second one is VS Code. And now let's install TypeScript, which is needed to compile TypeScript files into JavaScript. So directly you cannot run the TypeScript files, right? You first need to convert those TypeScript file into JavaScript file, and then only we would be able to run the JavaScript file. So it is very important to install TypeScript also, right? Now to install the TypeScript, you just need to open the terminal. You can open CMD, PowerShell or any other terminal. For now, I will use this VS Code terminal only. Here, click onto this terminal, new terminal, and here, now we just need to give the command. For now, I am using bash terminal, but from here you can select different terminal like command prompt, PowerShell. You just need to give the same CLI command, and the CLI command is npm install -g and then TypeScript. So here we are installing TypeScript globally. This -g is for installing globally. Now let's hit enter, which will install the TypeScript. And see, it is showing this added one package in 4 seconds. So now our TypeScript is also installed, and we have installed it globally. So it is not restricted to any project, right? As we are installing it globally only. Now all the prerequisites are installed. Now let's proceed further with actual TypeScript code. So now first we are going to talk about variables. Variables store value that can be reused in the program. In TypeScript, we can also define the type of each variable. So to create the variable, we are going to use let or const. So we can use const by default, and we can use let when we want to change the values. Now let's go to VS Code, and here to create our first file and to write our first code, we need to open a project. For now, I have created one blank folder, which is TypeScript-tutorial. You can create this folder at any location. For now, I have created this folder inside E drive into these folders, right? You need not to be worried about that. You can create this folder anywhere. For now, here we are not having any files. Now I will go to VS Code, and here we need to click onto this file, open folder, and here we just need to select the desired folder. As for now, I have created this TypeScript tutorial folder. I will select it and click onto this select folder. And for now, as this particular folder is not having any file. Now let's create our first TypeScript file. So for that, either you can click onto this icon to create the new file, or right click onto the new file. Now you can provide any name. Now let me give the name as TypeScript-practice. So TypeScript-practice. After that, we need to provide the extension. So for that, we need to give dot and then ts. So this is our TypeScript file. Hit enter, and now we can write our first TypeScript code here. So for now, we are going to create the variables. So if you remember the JavaScript, it is very similar to that only. So here what you need to do, you need to provide let or const. First, let me use this const, and then we need to provide the variable name. I will give variable name as name value. You can provide any variable name, and here to create the variable name, you need to use the camel casing. Not mandatory, but it is recommended. So in case of camel casing, our first word would be having all small letters, and from the second word, the first letter of that particular second word would be capital and then all small. Similarly, if there are 3 words included, again it would be having first alphabet capital and then all small. And following this naming convention is not compulsory, but it is recommended. After that, if you are using JavaScript, so you just need to provide equals to, and then you can provide any value. Like here, I am providing WishInfinite. As I am providing this text value, in that case, we need to use either single quotes, double quotes, or backticks. For now, I have used the double quotes. And as we are using TypeScript, so we can also define types. And how to define types here? So for that, after variable name, we just need to give this colon, and then we need to provide the variable type. So here, as we are going to store the text or string, so we need to provide string here. So string is one of the data type. We will talk about string in more detail just after some time. So now we have created a variable where we have provided that its type should be string, and here we are storing the value. And here if you will mouse over onto this particular variable, it will show you that this variable is of string type. Like this, we can store values inside the variable. And now we can use this variable anywhere. For now, I will just use console.log. So console.log, and here let me put this variable name value. So here what we are doing with the help of this console log, it will just log the value of this particular variable into the terminal. So that's why we are using this console.log method, just to log the value into the console. That's it. So once I execute this code, it will print this value. And now similarly, we can create variable using the let. There we would be able to change that. And as we are using const, so we cannot change value of this variable once we assign the value to it. So let's say I use the same variable, which is name value, Here we will not have to use this const and variable type because we have already declared our variable. Now we are just trying to change this value. So again, we just need to use the variable name equals to, and here let me put test here. You can put any value. And see, we are getting this particular error. Cannot assign to name value because it is a constant, right? So that's what I just wanted to tell you, that you cannot change the value of constant variable. Let me comment this out, otherwise this error will be appearing into the code. And to comment out what you need to do, you just need to press Ctrl and / for that particular line. If you want to comment the multiple lines, so you just need to select the code and then you need to press Ctrl then /. If you are using Mac, so in that case you need to use command then /. That's it. For now I'm not running the code. Let me create one more variable using let keyword and then we would be running the code. So here let's use this let keyword. For that we just need to provide let, which is let, and now we just need to provide the variable name. Then let's give the variable name as URL, and as we are using TypeScript, so we can also define the type. For that you just need to provide the colon, which are these two vertical dots, and then you need to provide the type. So here, as we want to store the URL, which is text, so in that case we will have to provide string here. After that provide equals to, and then you can provide your value. And as I told, you can either use single quotes, double quotes or backticks. Here I am using single quote, and here let's provide the URL as www.WishInfinite.com. And now let me console log it again so that we would be able to see it into the terminal once we execute the code. Here just provide console.log and then the variable name, which is URL. You can also provide text or number value directly inside this particular console.log, and whatever the value which you provide, it would be appearing into the console or into terminal, right? And here, as I told you, when we are using this let, we can change the value also. So here let me change the value. Here just provide URL equals to, and here you can just provide the value. So here I will put single quotes as I want to provide the text value, and now I will use the same URL value, but before that I would be putting this https :/ and then www.WishInfinite.com. And see, here we are not getting any error. So like this we can change the value. For now let me comment it out. We will try to console log this value, and now let's execute our first code. So here into the terminal we need to provide the command. You can use any of the terminal. For now I am using this bash terminal. You can also select the CMD or PowerShell. It's totally up to you. And we are using it inside the VS Code. If you want to externally open the CMD, that also you can do, but you'll have to navigate to this particular location to run this code, right? As we are getting it inside the VS Code, so it is easy to use it here only. Now to execute this code, what we need to do? So there are two steps. First, we need to convert this TypeScript code into JavaScript code. And for that, we need to provide tsc and then the file name .extension. As we are inside this folder only, you need not to provide the path. So here file name is TypeScript-practice.ts. And here once we provide the file name with the extension, we just need to hit the enter. And now as soon as you do so, it will generate a JavaScript file. So previously we just created this TS file, right? But as soon as we executed this particular command, it generated this JavaScript file. And now we can execute this JavaScript file. So we cannot directly execute our TypeScript code. We need to convert that particular TypeScript code into JavaScript code, and then only we would be able to execute it. But with the JavaScript, we cannot provide types, right? We do not get that much extra safety. So that's why we are using TypeScript, right? Now here you can open this file. You can see the code, right? It is JavaScript code. See, those types are not appearing here because in the JavaScript it is not there. So here what happened? As soon as we executed this particular command, it generated a file with the same file name, but with this .js extension, which is extension for JavaScript. Let me close it for now. And here to run the JavaScript, you can use code runner extension. For now, we would be running it through the CLI command only. While running the JavaScript into JavaScript video, I told you that we can use code runner also. Because it was straightforward. We were directly creating the JavaScript code only. But here, first we need to convert the TypeScript code into JavaScript, then we need to execute it, right? So it's better we use the commands only. Let me close this JS file. And here we just need to provide node and then that JavaScript file name. So file name is same only, which is TypeScript-practice. And after that, we need to provide the extension, which is .js, right? So here we have compiled TypeScript file. So that's why we have provided file name .ts, which is this file. But here we are executing the JavaScript file, which got generated after executing this command. So that's why we need to give the node. And after that, we need to provide the file name with extension, which is extension for JavaScript file, which is .js, which is for this file which got generated, right? Now hit enter and see it is printing WishInfinite and then this URL also, which is www.WishInfinite.com. Here it printed this value WishInfinite, and here this printed this URL value. And as I told you, we can change the value of it also. So here let me uncomment this part where we change the value of this URL, where we added this https:// also into our URL. Now here let me again execute this code, but to execute it again you'll have to give this particular command, which is tsc and the file name .ts, which is going to again generate this JavaScript file with the same name .js extension. Right here, if you will open it, you will see the updated code also. Let me close it for now. We need not to go through this particular code, right? It is just the JavaScript. And now to execute the file, we just need to give this node file name.js. Now hit enter. And here, as you can see, again we are getting this name and then this updated URL, where we change the value of the URL at this particular line, as we are using let to declare the keyword. And here, as we were using const, so we were not able to change the value. It was showing error. And here is one more thing which you should be aware about. So whenever you are using const keyword to create a variable, you will have to assign the value to that variable at that time only. But if you are using let keyword, you can create a variable and later you can assign the value to that particular variable. And this concept is going to be applicable for both JavaScript and TypeScript. Let me explain this to you with one example. Let's say if I am using this const keyword to create a variable, let's give the variable name as a. So here I have created the variable, which means I have declared the variable. And now later I want to assign the value. So here what I will do, I will provide this variable a equals to, and here I will provide some value, let's say 20. So now here we are getting the error. If you will mouse over, you would be able to see const declarations must be initialized. So whenever we are declaring the variable, we need to initialize it. Which means whenever we are creating or declaring the variable, we need to assign the value to it. We need to initialize the value to it, right? And this is JavaScript code. This is going to be similar for the TypeScript also. So in the TypeScript, we can define the type. So as soon as we are declaring or creating the variable, we can define the type by providing colon. And here I can provide its type. Let's provide number, as we are going to save number. And still we would be getting error. The error would be same, right? Const declarations must be initialized. And now let's talk about let. In case of let, we can declare the variable, which means we can create the variable and later we can assign the value to that particular variable, which means we can initialize the value later. Let me show that to you. Let me remove it. And here let me use this let keyword. So let a, right? So here we have declared the variable, which means we have created the variable. Now later I will assign its value. So here I will put a equals to 20. So this is JavaScript code. And see, we have not got any error. Because with the const keyword, as soon as we are declaring the variable, which means as soon as we are creating the variable, we need to assign value to it. We need to initialize the value. But in case of let keyword, we can declare the variable, which means we can create a variable and later we can assign or initialize value for it. And this is JavaScript code. Same can be done for the TypeScript also. So here, when we are declaring the variable, which means when we are creating the variable, we can define the type. So after the variable name, we need to provide colon, and here we can provide the type. Here I will provide number, as we are going to save the number. And here also we have not got any error. So we declared the variable, we created the variable using TypeScript, and then we initialize the value, which means we assign the value to that particular variable. That's it. Let me remove this code, but you should be aware about this concept and you can use it. And if you are seeing this, you should be aware about it. And guys, rather than running these codes separately one by one, there is one more way that you can directly run this code in a single command. So there we will just combine these two commands so that it would be easy for us also during the tutorial. There is no harm in running them separately, but just to save the time, we would be providing combine command so that we will not have to provide these commands one by one again and again, right? And how to do so? For that, first you need to give this tsc command. Let me copy this here, then provide tsc and then file name .ts extension, right? Do not make any mistake here. With this tsc, you need to provide the file name with that TypeScript extension, which is .ts. And after that, to combine this particular command with second command, which is node and then file name .js, we need to provide this double ampersand sign. And after that, give space, and then you need to provide this node file name .js. Let me copy it and paste it here. So node file name .javascript file extension, which is .js. So do not make any mistake with this extension. And now that's it. Just hit enter. And see, directly we are able to see the output. We need not to execute this command first and then this command. Just combine these commands and just execute it. And here we can provide this double ampersand sign in case of bash terminal or cmd terminal. But if you are going to use PowerShell terminal, so in that case, you cannot provide these double ampersand sign. It will show error. So let me just quickly tell you that what you can do if you are using specifically the PowerShell terminal. Let me copy this whole command rather than typing it again and again. And here, as I told you, we are using bash terminal. We can provide this double ampersand sign. If you are also using CMD terminal, which you can directly click here onto this down arrow, and here you can select this command prompt, which will open the CMD terminal. And here also you can provide the same command. So tsc filename.ts and then double ampersand and then node and then filename.js. Hit enter and it will show the output where we have used this CMD terminal. Previously we used the bash terminal, but I was telling you about the PowerShell terminal. In the PowerShell terminal, if you will use this double ampersand, it will show you error. Let me just quickly show that to you. So to open the PowerShell terminal, click onto this down arrow at the right hand side of this plus icon and then select this PowerShell terminal, which is this one. And here let's paste this same command with this double ampersand sign. And now let me hit enter. And see, we have got this error for this double ampersand, that the token double ampersand is not a valid statement separator in this version. So now what to do? So now on place of this double ampersand, we just need to provide the semicolon. And how to do so? So here put the same command tsc filename.ts and here just remove this double ampersand. Go to this double ampersand with the arrows, remove these double ampersand. You can remove the spaces also and then just provide this semicolon. Here to see the command separately, put one space also. If you are not putting that, that is also okay. Now let's hit enter and see, this time we have got the output by using just the single command. But just remember, if you are using specifically the PowerShell tool, in that case you need to replace that double ampersand sign, which is this one, with the semicolon. But if you are using any other terminal like bash terminal, CMD terminal, or if you are using macOS, so in that case if you are using macOS terminal also, so you just need to provide two commands separated by double ampersand. That's it. For now I would be using bash terminal. So here multiple times I would be providing this particular command, which are two commands separated by double ampersand. So first this particular command gets executed and then if there is no error, so it executes this particular command, right? So we are just combining these two commands with the help of double ampersand. And this we are doing just to save the time. If you are not able to understand it, just simply use these two commands one by one. First provide this tsc command and then second time provide this node command. That's it. Now let's go to the next section, which is data types. So data type define what kind of data a variable holds. Data type can be string, number, boolean, array, object. So whatever the data type we want, we can provide that. Let's start with this string. So string stores text value like names or URLs. We just use the string, but just let me use it again. Here we have provided the string only, right? For now, let me comment out this part. Let me give this heading also so that later if you see the file, you would be able to get the code properly, right? It would be easy for you to understand. Here I am providing this heading, which is variables, and providing it as the comment. That's it. Now let me just add the separator also so that code is more readable for you. So to add the separator, I'm just providing comment, right? // and then some equals to, so that code is properly separated. You can provide anything here. It doesn't matter. It is just the comment. Now let's talk about string. Now here let me add this heading, which is data types. Hit enter. And here we are going to talk about string first. So how to create the string? We just need to use const.let. Here I am using let. And then you need to provide the variable name. Then let me use the variable name as course. You can give any variable name. Just use the camel casing. And after that we need to provide a colon, space, and then type of this variable. So as we are talking about string, because we are going to store string here, so we will provide string. Then equals to, and after that you can provide the string. And previously also I told that to put the string, either you can use single quotes or double quotes or backticks. Let me use single quotes first. Provide these two single quotes and in between you can provide the value. Here let me give the course name as TypeScript course. But TypeScript. And here let me console log this value. Console.log. And here just provide the variable name. You can also provide this string value directly here, or number value, right? Any data type you can directly provide to log it into the console. For now we are saving it inside the variable, so we are providing the variable name. Mostly you would be using the variables, right, rather than directly using the value. So provide this particular variable name. And now let's execute the code. To execute the code, what you need to do, just simply give this command, which is this one, right? I'm not again repeating this command. You already know what to do. Now let's hit enter. Now it printed this TypeScript. And here we have used single quotes. Similarly, we can use double quotes also. let me copy this line. Let me comment this out, hit enter. And here, rather than providing the single quotes, let me provide double quotes. So 2 double quotes, right? Opening and closing, and in between we need to provide the value. And the course name is, again, I'm giving TypeScript. This part I've committed just for your reference. Now let's execute the code and see, we would be able to get the same output. There is no change. Although first we have used single quotes, then we have used double quotes. And similarly, we can use backticks also. It is going to provide the same behavior. Let me comment this out. Let's provide the same line. And here, rather than using single quotes or double quotes, we are going to use backticks. So press the button below the escape. So opening and closing of backticks, which means 2 backticks. And in between we can provide the value. So let me use this TypeScript again. And now let's run the code. Again providing the same command, and it is printing TypeScript again. So there is no change in the output, right? So it's totally up to you. You can either use single quotes, double quotes, or backticks, right? But when you want to combine the strings, in that case, there is a slight difference. Let me just quickly show that to you. Let me comment out this part also. And here, let's create one string. So again, I'm using this let. Here I will use this name val equals to, and for now I'm using single quotes, and then here I will provide name as WishInfinite. Now let me create one more variable. Again, let's use this let. Here I will give variable name as description. You can give any variable name. Here let's provide type also. So colon string equals to. Here also we can provide the type colon string. It is not mandatory to provide these types, but as we are using TypeScript, so we should use its capabilities, right? Otherwise we would have used JavaScript only. Now here, as we have created this variable and provided the type, we need to provide the value also. And here, to provide this value, I want to use this variable name also. So what I want to give? I want to give WishInfinite is best. And how to do so? So if you are using single quotes, what you'll have to do? You'll have to provide this variable name first. And now we want to combine this particular value with other string. So to concatenate, when you are using single quotes, you need to provide this plus symbol. And after that, you can provide any variable or any string. For now, I want to provide the string directly here. So here again, provide the single quotes. And here I will provide is best. Just add the space before that, so that it will print WishInfinite, then space is best. Now let's run the code. Give the same command, hit enter. It has not printed anything because we have not provided the console log. Let me quickly give this console.log and then this variable value, which is description. And now let's again run it, hit enter, and we have got this WishInfinite is best. And like this, you can concatenate multiple values. Let's say if you want to provide one more variable after this, so just provide this plus and then provide that variable value. For now, that is enough. And now let me use double quotes. So again, we will create these 2 variables only. Let me copy it, and on place of the single quotes, I would be using double quotes. So opening and closing of double quotes, in between we have put the value. Let me give this variable name as name val 2. We cannot reuse these variable names. And here also, let me give this description 2. So here we have used double quotes, and in the second string, we want to concatenate this value with is best. Let me again write it. So what you need to provide? You need to provide the variable name. Then to concatenate, we need to do the same thing like single quotes. Just provide a space plus, and then after plus, we just need to provide double quotes, as we are using double quotes here. Then space is best. That's it. So to concatenate variables with values or multiple variables, you just need to use this plus symbol. And now let's again use this console.log, and here just provide this new variable name, which is description 2. Let me comment out this first part. You can also leave it uncommented, but I don't want to confuse you. For now, I will comment it out, and now let's give the same command, hit enter, and it will print this same thing, WishInfinite is best. And as I told you, if you again want to concatenate it, just provide plus, provide the variable name. Here it can be any variable, again same variable or the new variable. Again, if you want to give a string, after that provide this plus and then provide any string, right? So it's totally up to you. You can use it multiple times, this plus icon, to concatenate, right? For now, let me move this part. And now let's use backtick to concatenate string with a variable or multiple variables. Let me comment out this particular part also. Hit enter. Let's create the variable let name val 3, then colon string equals to, and here let's provide the same name, which is WishInfinite. But to provide the string, we are going to use backticks, which is below the escape. So like this, provide 2 backticks, and in between you can provide the text. So here let's provide WishInfinite. Now let's create one more variable using backticks only. So let description 3 colon type string equals to and then backticks, and here we want to provide WishInfinite is best, where we want to use this variable. So to use this variable, what you need to do when you are using backticks. So here we are simply concatenating or combining multiple variables with the text values. So here when you are using backticks, you just need to use this $sign and then you need to put opening and closing of curly braces. So within the backticks only you need to do this, and then you can provide any variable name. Like this you can provide it, and after that within the backticks only you can put a space, and here you can write is best. And usually whenever I want to put a variable with the string, or whenever I want to do the concatenation, I use this backticks, where we need not to keep track of this plus, right? Because if you would be using multiple variables, you will have to provide plus symbol, then the variable name, again the plus symbol, and then you need to keep the track of this space also. Here you just need to simply write it what you want to see, right? Dollar variable name, which will give us WishInfinite. After that we want to give this space, and then we want to write this is best. And now let's quickly console log it. So console.log, and here description 3. Now let's run the code, hit enter, and it printed WishInfinite is best. So same thing it is doing, but there is a slight different way. If you are using single quotes or double quotes, you need to use this plus icon to do the concatenation. But when you are using backticks, you just need to simply provide this dollar, double curly braces, and then in between you need to provide the variable name. And here, if you are using multiple variables, let me create one more variable. Let's say let text 1 colon string equals to and then backticks channel. And it is not necessary for these variables. You will have to use single quotes only, then only you would be able to use it here. You can use single quotes, double quotes, or backticks. Now let me use this variable, which is text1. So I want to print WishInfinite is best channel. So for that, again I will give a space after the best, and then I will provide dollar, opening and closing of curly braces, and then the variable name, which is text1. Now let me again run the code, provide the command, hit enter, and see we have got WishInfinite is best channel. And like this you can use multiple variables by just providing dollar, curly braces, and in between just provide the variable name. It looks more realistic, right? Rather than combining multiple space with the strings. But it's totally up to you what you want to use, right? So whatever with which you are comfortable, you can use that. For now, let me comment it out. So this was our string, where we saw that how we can create the string, where we need to provide the type, and then we can use single quotes, double quotes, or backticks. We also saw that how we can combine strings with the different variable. If you are using single quotes or double quotes, in that case we need to use this plus. If you are using backticks, you need to use dollar and then opening and curly braces, and then the variable name, and all these things we need to provide within the backticks. If you are using single quotes and double quotes, in that case you need to provide the variable name outside the single quotes or double quotes, right? But by providing this plus with the variable name, and it's totally up to you what you want to use, what you prefer. Now the second data type is number. It stores numeric values such as count or timeout or any other numeric value like age, right? So it's totally up to you what you want to store. And how to create a number? Let's go to VS Code, and here either you can use const or let. For now I'm using let, and here let's give the variable name as count. So count. After that you need to provide colon and then the data type. So data type is number, all small. So number equals to, and here we can provide any value. Let's provide 9 here. Now let me console log it. I'm using console log multiple times so that you would be able to see the output. In actual scenario, you are going to use these variables at different places into the code, right? When we would be learning the automation, we would be using these variables. So that's why I want you to understand it properly. Now provide this console.log, and here let's provide this variable name count. And here let's run this code, provide this command, hit enter, and see we have got this 9 here. Like this you can provide any number. When you are providing number, you need not to use these single quotes, double quotes, or backticks. Directly just provide the number. That's it. So to create the number variable, what you have to do? You need to provide the let or const, variable name, colon, and then you need to provide the specific data type. So previously we wanted to create the string variable, so we provided this string. And as we have provided a string, we will have to store a string only inside that variable. Here we have used this number, so we will have to provide this number only here. Let me put something else here. So let's put this count equals to, and here as a string I will provide 9. So see we are getting this error. Type string is not assignable to type number. Because we are using TypeScript, so we cannot store some other data type. Whatever which we have provided here, as the type, we will have to provide same data type value. Let me remove it for now. And now the third data type is Boolean, which stores true or false value for checks and validations. How to do that? Let's go to VS Code. Here, let me comment this out. And now let's create one variable let is logged out. Any variable name you can give. If we are using Boolean, usually we should provide this is logged in or is visible, right? So that it will appear like flag. It can be true or false, right? So let me give this is visible here, right? So is capital V and then all small. Then put colon. Here you can put space, colon, and then space, or without space you can provide colon. It doesn't matter, right? So colon and then the data type. Here we just want to store the Boolean value. So here we just need to provide BOOLEAN, Boolean, equals to, and here either we can provide true or false. So here I am providing true like this. Here one thing to remember, do not provide it as the string. You just need to directly provide this true keyword like this. That's it. And now let's quickly console log it. So console.log and then provide this variable name which is visible. Now let's run the code here into the terminal and see we have got true. Similarly, if you will put false here, you would be able to see false. And only you can provide true or false. Let's say you try to provide some random value here. It is not a keyword like true and false. You are able to see error. See, cannot find a name, whatever you have provided. You just need to provide either true or false. That's it. And as it is Boolean, you cannot provide any number or string also. Let me try to put 8 here. And see, we are getting this error that the number is not assignable to type Boolean. So see, we are getting extra safety. We cannot just put random data, right? You will have to provide the similar type of data. Let me roll it back and let me comment out this part. And as we are using TypeScript, so it is not necessary that you will have to provide the type, then only it will just accept the specific type. Let me just quickly explain it to you with one example. Let's say I give this let, then num1 or number 1 you can give. You cannot provide number here because that is a keyword, right? You cannot use the variable name which are keywords. And now let num1 equals to 20. We have not provided the file, but we are using this TypeScript, right? .ts file. And here now let me change this value. So num1 equals to, and here if I provide 30, so it is number only, so it is allowing me to do so. But now let me provide a string here, ABC. And see, we have got the error. Let's mouse over here and see type string is not assignable to type number. Although you should prefer to provide these types like this, but even if you are not providing it and you are using TypeScript, so it will be able to detect this error. This variable is number because we have initialized this value with the number. And now we are trying to put string inside the number, and that's where we are getting the error. And that is where we catch the issue early. If you would have used it inside the JavaScript, it will not give any error. It will let you store the string into the variable which was previously having the number. Let me remove it, otherwise it will create confusion for you. But remember this concept, right? If you don't want to get restricted, let's say you are not much concerned that user is giving the number only or the string only or the boolean only. So in that case, there is one more way where you can use any. How to use that? Let me quickly show that to you. So here only for this num1, what I will do after this variable name, put colon and here just provide any. And see, our error is gone. Mouse over onto this num1 and you would be able to see its type as any. You can store anything here. Either you can provide string or number or boolean. It's totally up to you. So if you are having such scenario where you don't want to be restricted, you can provide any data type. So in that case only just provide this any. Otherwise I would suggest you provide the specific data type only. Let me just quickly provide this boolean also here. So num1 equals to 2. And see, still we are not getting any error because we have provided this type as any. We can provide any data type value. So it is behaving like JavaScript, right? When we are using any, we can provide any value. In the JavaScript, without providing any, if you will do so, it will not give you any error. It will work normally. But in case of TypeScript, you'll have to use any, then only it will work. If you will not provide this any, it will show error. For now, let me comment this out and now let's proceed further. Now let's talk about next type, which is arrays. Arrays store multiple values of same type in a list. Let's create an array. Let's go to VS Code. And here to create an array, let's create one variable. So let, and here I will give variable name as users. I'll store some usernames here. Then we need to provide the type. And how to provide the type? So syntax is same. We need to put colon, space, and then we need to provide type of an array. So here, as we want to store username, so here I will give type as string. Now we are creating an array of string type. So here after string, we also need to provide these opening and closing of square brackets. So here we are creating a variable and providing its type as the string array. Means this array only accepts strings. After that, we need to put equals to, and here we can create an array. And how to create an array? For that, we need to put opening and closing of square brackets, and in between we can provide different values. So here let's put the name Ram, comma, and then we can put the second string. So you need to provide the string within the quotes. It can be single quotes, double quotes, or backticks. And after each item, you need to provide the comma. And here let's give the name as WishInfinite. Then after this string, put comma, and then the next item. Let's give the name as Sam. And like this, you can provide multiple values inside an array. And it is an array of type string. So here we can only provide string. Let's say if I try to provide number here, so I will get an error. See, type number is not assignable to type string. So let me remove it now. And now this is our array. And how to fetch the value from array? So if you have watched my JavaScript related video, you already know how to do this. I will show you again. So to fetch the value from an array, we need to provide the name of array. So in this case, the name of the array is users. And now we need to provide the index number. So what is index number? So here for each item there is an index number and its value start from the 0. So for the 0th index, the value is Ram. After that, index would be 1 and its value is WishInfinite. After that again, index value is 2 and its value is Sam. And like this, if there would be multiple items inside an array, the index number would be position minus 1, right? So it is at first position, so index would be 0. This one is second position, so index is 2 minus 1, which is 1, right? So here let's provide the index number. How to provide the index number? So for that, we need to put opening and closing of square brackets, and in between we can provide the index number. So if I provide 0, I will get Ram. If I provide 1, I'm going to get WishInfinite. Let me console log it quickly. So console.log, and in between let's provide this users with the index number like this. You can also store these values inside a variable, and those variables would be of string type because this is array of string type. So whatever you are going to fetch is a string, right? Here we have Ram, WishInfinite, Sam, all are string. So you'll have to create a string variable, and inside it you can store this value. You can try it at your end. Let me remove this. Now let me run the code. Again, let's give this command and hit enter. And see, we have got Ram. Similarly, if I change the index to 1, I'm going to get WishInfinite. Let's run it again. And like this, you can change the index number and you can get different values from an array. We can also fetch all the values from an array by using loop. So once we will understand the loop, I will show you how to do that. Now with the arrays, there is one more thing. What is that? So we can also store multiple values of different types in an array, which is called tuple in TypeScript. So previously we have just stored values of same type inside an array. But now we are going to store multiple values of different types inside an array, and we would be calling it tuple. How to do that? Let's see that quickly. There can be multiple ways. I'm just showing you one of the way. So here what we will try to do, we will try to store values of different type inside an array. So let me create one variable. Let's create one variable. Let marks. You can create any variable. You can take any example. I just want to store multiple values of different data types. After that, we need to provide the type. So here what would be the type? So we want to store values of different type inside an array. So here we cannot provide a specific data type. So for that, what we would be doing, we would be putting colon, and here I would be providing any. What is any? Previously we just saw. And after that, we will be providing opening and closing of square brackets. So here what we are saying, this variable is of type array, which can accept any value. It can be string, it can be number, it can be Boolean, it can be an inner array also, it can be an object, right? It can be anything. After that, equals to, and then let's provide opening and closing of square brackets. The syntax is same, right? And now here we can provide any values. Let's provide math, which is string. So we provided it within the quotes. After that, let's put comma, and here let's put some marks. Let's say 45. So this is number. After that comma, again we can give value of any type. Let's again give string. Here I will give text as art. Again let's put comma, and here let's give a number 75. And like this you can provide any value. Let's say I want to store some Boolean. So here I can write true. And like this you can provide multiple values of different data type. And here we call this as tuple. So if we are storing values of same type inside a list, so we call it as array. But if we are storing multiple values of different type inside an array, we call it as tuple. If you would be using Playwright, you would be seeing this tuple example. I would be explaining it to you once we will learn that. For now, just be aware about this particular concept. And if you want to fetch the value from the tuple, the syntax is same. You need to provide the variable name and then the index number. Let's use console log to show the value. So console.log parenthesis, and here let's provide this name, which is marks. And here let's provide the index as 2. So what is at index 2? So this is 0, 1 and 2. So at index 2 we have art. So we should be able to see art into the console. Let's quickly run the script. Let's provide this command and hit enter. And see, we have got art. Let's say I want to get this Boolean value. So it is at 5th position. So index would be 4. 0, 1, 2, 3 and 4. Let's provide that quickly and we should be able to see true. Let's give this command, hit enter. And see, we have got true. And like this, you can fetch any value from the tuple like an array. And there is one more alternative syntax to create an array. Just let me quickly show that to you. So for that, what you need to do, you need to create one variable and then let's provide the variable name. And here I want to create an array of type number. So for that, we will have to provide the type. And to provide the type, put colon, space, and here into this alternative style, there is slight difference in syntax. So here we would be providing keyword array, capital A, double R, A, Y. And then within the angular braces, we need to provide data type. So here, opening and closing of angular braces. And here we can provide any type. As I told, I want to create an array of type number. So here I will be providing number. And after this, we need to provide equals to, and here we can create an array. And to create an array, syntax is same, opening and closing of square brackets. And here we can provide any numbers. Let's provide 4, 78, 99, 101. And this array is of type number. So we cannot store any other data type here. Let me provide some string here, ABC. So see, we are getting same type string is not assignable to type number. Let me remove that. And now let's fetch one value. For that, I will use console.log. And here let's provide this array name, which is num array. After that, we need to put opening and closing of square brackets. And in between, we just need to provide the index. In the same way we have fetched previously. So here let's provide index number as 3. And now let's run the code. So see, we have got 101. From here we have got WishInfinite. From here we have got true. And from here we have got this 101. So you can use any syntax. Usually you would be seeing this particular syntax. But at any place, if you see this particular syntax, that is also correct. So don't get confused if you see this particular syntax anywhere. Now let's talk about objects. So objects group related data together with defined structure and types. Here we would be creating objects with types, which means we are going to provide type for an object. In the JavaScript also we saw that how to create an object. But here we would be providing type also for that particular object. So with the objects, we can store lots of test data inside an object. And here TypeScript lets us define their structure. Let's go to VS Code. Let me comment out this particular part. Let me put a separator, / and some equals to. And here let's provide an heading as array. And for the next section, let's again put a separator. I'm just putting these separators so that you would be easily able to identify once you look at this particular file later. And here let's give the heading as objects. Now let's create an object. So for that, first what we need to do, we need to create one variable. So let's provide let and then a variable name. So here I will give the variable name as user details. Any variable name you can give as per your requirement. And in the JavaScript also, we saw that how to create the variable. We just need to provide opening and closing of curly braces, and in between we would be providing key and value pair. But here, as we are using it with the TypeScript, so we can also provide types on top of that. And how to provide the types? So for that, we need to put colon, space, and here this is an object. So here there is a syntax to provide type for the specific object. So for that, we need to provide opening and closing of curly braces, and in between we can provide the types. And to provide types for an object, we need to provide key and values inside these opening and closing of curly braces. In the same way, we create an object, right? So here first I will give key name as username. And now here we would be storing username, which would be a string. So for that, we need to provide the type. So for this particular key, the type is going to be string. So again, to provide the type, put the colon, and then we can provide its type. So here it is string. Similarly, we want to store password, and password would also be a string. So for that, let's put comma, and the key value is password, and then colon, and after that we can provide its type, which would be string. And here it is not necessary that you need to write all these key value pairs in the same row. you can provide enter here also, so that it is properly visible as key value pair like this. Here I have added some tab also, so that you would be able to see this properly. After that, I also want to store age. So for that, again, let's put comma after the string. So after this key value pair, I am providing comma, again hitting enter, and here I will provide age colon, and age type will be number. So I will provide number here. So now what we have done, we have created one variable, and here we have provided its type. So provided colon, and then opening and closing of curly braces, where we provided key value pair. So key is the name for which we would be providing the value. And for each key, we have provided the type. So for this username, we are going to put some string. So here we have given string. After that, comma. For password, again it is a string. And for the age, we have given number. So age colon, and its type is number. And like this, if there are multiple key value pairs, you can provide whole structure here. If you will mouse over here, you would be able to see that we have created this variable, and its type is this: username string, password string, and age string. And now we need to put equals to after this type. In the same way, we have created other types also, like number, string, boolean, array. So after equals to, we can provide the value. So the value is going to be an object, right? So we need to put opening and closing of curly braces. And here we can provide the actual values. So let's give username. So this is key, and its value will be a username. So for that, we need to provide colon, and then we can provide any username. For now, I will give WishInfinite as the string. So here we can use single quotes, double quotes, or backticks. I'm using single quotes, and here I'm providing WishInfinite. And then we want to store password. So again, put comma, and then key is password, and its value is going to be string. So here we can provide colon, and then opening and closing of quotes. It can be single quotes, double quotes, or backticks. And here let's provide pass123. Any password we can give here, which will be of type string. And now third thing is our age, which is of type number. Here if you will see, for this variable we are getting an error. Why so? Let me mouse over it and see property age is missing in the type. Because in the type specifically we have mentioned that we want these three items, and we have provided type of items also. So we will have to provide this key value pair. So after this password value, put comma, age, colon, and here we will have to give number. Because for this age, type is number. So let's provide 20 here. And like this, you can provide the type if you want to store any other value, and then you can provide key value pair for that particular set. So in the JavaScript, we cannot define this type. So anyone who is using that particular object can store anything inside that particular object. But here we have specifically mentioned that we want this type only, which will be having these key and value pairs. That's it. And now how to fetch the value? So it is very similar to JavaScript. For that, let's provide console.log. So console.log, and here how to fetch the value? So for that, we need to use this variable name, which is user details. Then we need to provide dot. And after that, we can fetch value for any key. So let's say I want to fetch age. So for that, after the dot, we can provide this key name, and that's it. We would be able to fetch this particular value. Let me quickly run the code. So provide this combine command and hit enter. And see, we have got 20. Similarly, if we want to fetch password, we can provide password here. So variable name dot and then key name. Again, let's hit the command and we should be able to see password. And like this, you can fetch any value from the object. You can store it inside the variable, you can print it, or you can perform any operation on that. But here, if you have noticed, providing types like this is little messy. So for now, we have just provided 3 key value pair for the type. But there can be 10 or 20 types. So in that case, what would we do? So in that case, you can either use interface or type. How to use interface or type, that I would be showing to you later. For now, just understand that you can create an object, you can provide its type, and then you can provide values like this. And after that, you can fetch these values like this. That's it. So now let me comment out this particular part. So in this section, we have seen different data types, and we saw that how to provide types for the specific variable, and then how to store that value and how to fetch that value. So why this type helps? So TypeScript immediately shows an error if the wrong type is assigned, preventing bugs early. So during the compile time only, we would be able to see the error. We need not to run the script to see the errors. When you would be writing the code, you would be able to see the error if you are assigning any wrong value. We have seen it multiple times during this particular section. Now let's go to the next section, which is functions. So what is function? So inside the function, we can put reusable code. In the JavaScript, we have already seen how to create the function. But here into the TypeScript, function can define types for inputs and return values. This ensures correct data is passed and written. So how to create the function? For that, let's go to VS Code. Let me copy this heading. And here, after all the code, let's provide one separator, / and then equals to. And here, let's put the word / and functions as heading. And now let's create the function quickly. So for that, we need to provide one keyword to create the function. So here, let's provide this function. And then we need to provide the function name. And here, let's create the function with the name say hello. So this is our function name, say hello. And after that, we need to provide opening and closing of round parentheses. And after these parentheses, we need to put opening and closing of curly braces. And in between, we can provide n number of lines or n number of lines of code. For now, let's provide one console log only. So here I will give console.log. And then within the round parentheses, we can provide any value. Let's print hello. And now we have created the function. Let's execute the code and see what happens. Let me provide this command and hit enter. And see, we have got nothing. But we have provided this console log because we have created the function, but we have not called this function. Whenever we are creating the function, we will have to call that particular function to execute the code inside that function. And now let's call this function. So to call the function, you just need to provide the function name. In this case, it is say hello and then opening and closing of round parentheses. That's it. And now let's again run the code. So provide this command, hit enter. And see, we have got this hello here because we have called this function. And now there is one more way to create the function, which is more modern way, which is called arrow function. Let's see how to do that. So now I will create the same function, but using the modern way. Let's see that. For that, we need to provide one variable name. So to create the arrow function, we need not to use this keyword function. What we need to do? We need to put opening and closing of round parentheses. Then we need to provide equals to and greater than sign. After that, we need to put opening and closing of curly braces. And in between, we can provide different lines of code. Let's provide console log here. And here like this, you can put multiple lines of code. And now we need to put this syntax inside one variable. How to do so? For that, let's provide const here. And then we can provide any variable name, which would be name of function. So here I will give function name as say hello to. And then equals to. And that's it. Our arrow function is ready. For now, these functions are very simple. It is not having any parameters. And it is also not returning anything. What are parameters? What are return type? That we are just going to see. So this is our arrow function. How to call it? So the calling syntax is same. We need to provide the function name. In this case, it is say hello to, which we have created here like the variable. And then we need to provide opening and closing of round parentheses. And here let's console log hello to, so that we would be able to see different values. Now let's run the code, provide this command, hit enter. And see, we have got this hello from this particular calling, and we have got hello to from this call. And for now, we have created very basic function. These are not accepting any parameter and it is not returning anything. We are just executing the code inside these functions. And whenever function is not returning anything, in that case, it is going to return void. And as we are using TypeScript, we can also provide that type. And in these two functions cases, it is void. And how to provide return types of functions? So for that, what we need to do? So in this classic way where we have used this function keyword, and then we provided this name of the function. After that, we provided opening and closing of round parentheses. And after this, we can provide the type. And to provide the type, syntax is same. We need to put this colon, and then we can provide the type. So in this case, the return type is void because we are not returning anything. So here we can put void. If it is returning number, we will be putting number. If it is returning string, we would be putting string. And like this, we can return anything from the function that we would be seeing in some time. And for this arrow function, how to put the return value? So again, after this opening and closing of round parentheses, we can provide return type of the function. So for that, we need to put colon. So after these parentheses, colon, and then return type. In this case, it is void because it is not returning anything. And see, it is not mandatory to provide the type when we are using TypeScript. But if we are not providing the types, we are not using TypeScript at full capacity, right? We would have used JavaScript. But we want to use the TypeScript so that we should be able to detect type-related errors early. In this case, we have provided type as void. So if we will try to return anything using these functions, so we would be getting an error. Let's return some number here. See, we have started getting this error that type number is not assignable to type void. If we will remove this void, let me remove that quickly. So in that case, this error will be gone. But here for this function, we don't want it to return anything, but by mistake, you have provided this return type, but still you are not getting an error. So that's why we are going to use TypeScript so that we are able to detect such issues during compile time only. Let me put that return type void back. And let's remove this return from here. Now let's see how to create functions with parameters. So parameters allow functions to receive input values with specific types. Let's create a function with parameters. And here you can use any syntax. You can use this classical way, where you can use this function keyword. Or you can use this modern way, which is arrow function. For now, I would be using arrow function because you would be seeing these arrow functions while using Playwright Cypress or any other JavaScript automation tool. So that's why I want to use arrow functions so that you are more familiar with that. But it's totally your choice that what you want to use. Now here for now, let me comment this out. And again, let's create one function. So for that, we need to provide const and then the function name. Let's give the function name as add. So here I want to create a function which will add two numbers. So I'm giving function name as add. You can give any function name like calculator, add calculator, right? It's totally up to you. To create the function name, we provide this camel casing. To create the variables also, we have used camel casing value. After this variable name, we need to provide equals to. So this variable name is function name. And now what we need to do, we need to provide opening and closing of round parentheses. And in between these round parentheses, we can provide parameters. So here we are creating a function to add two numbers. So let's put two parameters here. So for that, we need to provide the parameter name. Here let's put num1. And like this, we can provide multiple parameters. After that, we can put comma and then we can give num2. But before that, as we are using TypeScript, so we can provide type for these parameters also. And how to do that? So for that, again, the same syntax, put colon, and then we need to provide type of this particular parameter. Type would be number because we want to add two numbers. And after providing type for this parameter num1, let's provide one more parameter. For that, you need to put comma, and then you can provide second parameter, which is num2. And here you can put any parameter name. These are just variables, right? So for that, we are using camel casing. So after num2, again we need to provide the type. So put colon and then again this number. And like this, you can provide any parameters with any type. Let's say you want to get one more parameter which would be of type string. So you can create that parameter name like name colon and then its type would be string. That's it. So now we have provided parameters. And after that, we need to provide the return type. For now, let's provide return type as void. So for that, put colon and then void as the return type. And after this return type, we need to provide the arrow symbol. For that, we need to put equals to, greater than sign, and then opening and closing of curly braces. And here we can provide any code. For now, we just want to add two numbers and just want to show it onto the console. For that, we will have to use console.log, console log, and then num1. After that, we want to add num2. So there we would be using this plus symbol and then num2. Here we are not concatenating, these are not string. We are adding two numbers. That's why we are providing this plus. So num1 plus num2, and we should be able to see addition of these two numbers. Now let's call this function. To call the function, again we need to provide this function name which is add and then opening and closing of curly braces. Here we are getting error because we have already told that we want to get two parameters which is num1 and num2. And here we are not providing value for these parameters. So now let's provide those arguments. Here I want to add 5 with 7. So 5 is the first argument, 7 is second argument. What is argument? It is just the value which we are passing for the specific parameter, right? So when we create the function, we provide these parameters that we want to receive these parameters, right? And when we call these functions, we call this value as argument. It is just the name, don't get confused, right? We are just passing the values for the parameters, right? And now let's execute the code. So for that, let's give combine hit enter. And we should be able to see 5 plus 7, which is 12. And like this, as I told, you can provide multiple parameters for the specific function. And while calling the function, you will have to provide those values as the argument. Now let's talk about return type. So each function can return something. Till now, we were not returning anything. So that's why we were providing void. But we want to return something now. And here in TypeScript, we can provide return type also, right? Previously, we have provided one return type as void. Like that, we can also provide return type as number, boolean, arrays, object, string, anything, right? So the return type defines what type of values the function should return. Let's see that quickly. So here again, I will create same function add, but here this time we would be returning addition of two numbers. Let me comment out this, and here let's put const, and then the function name as add2, then equals to opening and closing of round parenthesis, and here let's provide num1 colon its type which is number, and then the second parameter for that puts comma here, and then num2 colon and then number. And now we want to return something from this function. So we would not be providing return type as void. we would be providing actual return type. So addition of two number is going to be the number, and we want to return addition of two numbers. So here our return type would be number again. For that, we need to provide colon, and then you can provide return type. So in this case, it is number. You can put any return type. It can be string, it can be Boolean, it can be object, it can be an array. And here parameters also can be of different type, right? For now, we have just used the similar type of parameters just to make you understand easily. Now after providing data type, we need to provide equals to, then greater than symbol, and then opening and closing of curly braces. And here we want to return addition of two number. And how to do that? For that, we need to provide this return keyword, so return, and then you need to provide the value which you want to return. We want to return addition of two number, so we can simply put num1 plus num2. That's it. And here you can also save addition of these two numbers inside one variable, and then you can return that variable from the function using this return keyword. And here, as we have specifically mentioned, that our return type should be number. So if you will try to return any other data type, you will be getting an error. Let me quickly do that just to show you. So rather than passing this num1 and num2, I'm providing one string test. And see, we are getting this error that type string is not assignable to type number. For now, let me roll it back. And now here we are returning addition of two numbers. Now let's call this function. This function name is add2, and then opening and closing of curly braces. And here we need to pass the argument for these parameters. So here let's add two numbers which are 30, 50. And now we should get 80. But now here inside this function we are not console logging, but we have received this value as the return. Here you can console log also, but for now I am not console logging here. I am just returning addition of these two numbers. So now whenever we have provided any return value for the function, we should be able to get that return value from the function column. So here we are calling the function, and we should be able to receive the return value. And how to do that? So whenever you are calling the function, you can receive the value inside one variable. How to create the variable? So for that, you either need to provide const or let. Let's provide const here, and here we can provide any variable name. Here let's give variable name as addition, and then equals to. So now we are calling this function, and whatever this particular function is returning, we are able to receive it inside one variable. Now let me console log this value quickly. So console.log, and here let's provide addition, which is this variable name. Now let me quickly run the script. So again provide this command and hit enter, and we should be able to see 80. See, we have got 80 here into the console. And like this, you can provide n number of parameters of any type, and you can also define return type of any type. Here you can try to play with these functions so that you would be having better understanding. Now there is one more concept where we can provide optional parameter. So optional parameter allow functions to accept values that may or may not be provided. This adds flexibility to function calls. Now let's quickly see one example for this optional parameters. Let's go to VS Code, and here let me comment out this old function and its calling. And now let's create one more function. And this time I will be using that classical way. If you want, you can use arrow function. We just need to provide the parameters with just slight difference in case of optional parameters. Here let's use this keyword function. And as I told, if you want, you use arrow function. And here let's give function name as greet, and then opening and closing of parentheses. And here we can provide one parameter. Let's provide name, and then we need to provide the type. How to provide the type? We need to put colon, and then its type is string. And now as we are talking about optional parameters, so in this case, if we will call greet without any parameter, it is going to show the error. But now if we will use optional parameter, we can also call the function without providing argument for the specific parameter. And to keep the parameter optional, what we need to do before providing this type, when we provided name of the parameter, after that what you need to do, you need to provide this question mark, and that's it. This particular parameter is optional. So while calling, if you don't pass this particular value, it is not going to show us any error. And now after these round parentheses, put opening and closing of curly braces, and here let's console log it. So console.log, and here between the parentheses we can greet, right? So here I will provide hi and then this name. So let's use backticks here, and here hi. After that we want to use this parameter name, which is a variable. So for that what we need to do, after space provide dollar, and then opening and closing of curly braces, and in between we can provide the variable name. In this case it is parameter. And now let's call this function. So to call the function, what we need to do, we need to provide the function name, which is greet, and then opening and closing of curly braces. And see, previously when we provided these parameters and we were calling the function with less parameter or without any parameter, so we were seeing an error. But in this case, we have made this particular parameter as optional. So it is not mandatory to pass the argument for these parameters. For now, let's provide some name. Here let me provide WishInfinite. And now let's run the code. put the command, hit enter, and see we have got high WishInfinite. But as I told, this parameter is optional. We can call the function without providing any parameter. Let me comment out this particular part, and let's provide greet only, and then opening and closing of curly braces. Now let me run this code. So provide the command, hit enter, and see we have got this high, but here on place of this name we have got undefined because we have not passed any name. So that's why we are getting undefined. But like this, you can create the function which are having optional parameters. During automation, you would be seeing this concept. While calling the methods, you would be able to see that we can pass multiple arguments, but passing those parameters are optional. So whenever you see the functions and in between, if you see parameters with these question marks, so don't get confused. It is just the optional parameters. Now let me comment out this particular piece of code. And now let's go to the nice section, which is arithmetic operators. So it is used for mathematical calculations such as addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. It is having same behavior as JavaScript. So there is going to be no change in case of arithmetic operators. If you are creating any variables to use it with the arithmetic operators, so you can provide the types. But when you are using these arithmetic operators, there is no change. It is exactly similar as JavaScript. Let's use arithmetic operators. So we have different arithmetic operators like plus, minus, multiply, division, or modulus. Let's start with this addition, which is plus symbol. Let's go to VS Code, and here let me put one separator. So double forward slash and equals to, and here let's provide this heading, which is arithmetic operators. Provide it as the comment, so double forward slash in front of the string. That's it. Now let's provide one console log so that we would be able to see the value of the arithmetic operation. So here we need to provide console.log, and now within the parenthesis, let's add two numbers. So for the addition, we have one arithmetic operator which is plus. Now let's add two numbers. Let's add 5 with 3. So here we need to provide first number, which is 5, and then plus symbol, which is used for addition. It is also used for concatenation, but in case of numbers, it is going to add two numbers. So after number 1, we need to provide plus and then number 2. Here you can provide any number. Let's provide 8 here. And now let's run the code. Provide the command, hit enter, and see we have got 30. And like this, you can add multiple numbers. Now let's use subtraction. For that, arithmetic operator is minus symbol. Let's again use console.log, and here let's subtract 70 from one number. So here I want to subtract 70 from 100. So for that, first we need to provide the number 1, which is 100, and from this we want to subtract number. For that, we will have to provide this minus, and then the second number which we want to subtract from the first number. So here we want to subtract 70 from the 100, and what we should get 30. Let me comment out this section, and then let's run the code. Provide the command, hit enter, and see we have got 30, which is 100 minus 70. Now let's multiply these two numbers. Let's comment this out. Let's provide console.log again, and now let's multiply two numbers. Let's multiply 5 with 4. So first we need to provide number 1, which is 5, and then we want to multiply it with 3. So what is arithmetic operator here? So here we need to use this star symbol, which is shift 8, and then we can provide second number. Here let's provide 4. And now 5 multiplied by 4 is 20, and we should be able to receive 20. Let's run the code, provide the command, hit enter, and see we have received 20. And similarly, we can use the division by using the arithmetic operator, which is forward slash. Let's do that. Let's divide 10 by 3. So again, let me use this console log, and you need not to use console log, right? Just to show the output, I'm using console log. But you can store that value inside one variable, and then you can use that particular variable at some point. So it's totally up to you how you want to use these arithmetic operators. For now, let's quickly use console log only. So console.log, and here to provide 10 by 3, you need to provide first number, which is 10, then divide symbol, which is forward slash, and here we need to provide the second number, which is 3. You can provide any numbers here, and now what we should be able to receive? We would be receiving one value which will not be whole number. It is 3.333, right? Let me run the code. So this command, hit enter, and we should be able to see 3.333 multiple times, right? Till this particular decimal value. And here if you will provide, let's say 10 divided by 2, so we are going to get whole numbers, so we would be receiving that number only, not the decimal values. Let's quickly run it, and we should be able to see 5, which is 10 divided by 2. And in the similar pattern, we can also use modulus. And for that, arithmetic operator is this percentage symbol. How to use that? Let's quickly see. Let me comment this out. Let's again use console.log, and here let's use same example. When we divide 10 by 3, so it is going to get divided 3 times. After that, we are going to get one remainder. So that's what this modulus operator do. It provides us remainder after the division. Let's use the modulus operator. Let's provide 10 and then this percentage symbol and then 3. Now let's run the code and what we would be getting? We would be getting 1. Let's quickly see that. Provide the command, hit enter and we should be able to receive 1. See, we have got 1. And now let's divide 10 by 2 and then let's get remainder. So here first number is 10, then the second number is 2. So 10 modulus 2. So once we divide 10 by 2, it is going to get divided 5 times and we are going to get 0 remainder. Let's run the code and we should be able to see 0 as output. See, we have got 0. And like this you can use these arithmetic operators. For now let me comment this out and let's put one separator. So double forward slash and then equals to. You can put any separator. You can use star, minus, ampersand, any sign, right? I'm just putting divider. And as I told, when you are using arithmetic operators, either with JavaScript or TypeScript, it is going to be exactly the same. There is no difference. Now let's talk about next section, which is comparison operator. It is used to compare values and always return true or false, commonly used inside conditions and validations. There are different type of conditional operators, which are equals to, not equals to, greater than, less than, greater than equals to, and less than equals to. In the JavaScript also, we have seen these comparison operator. It is very similar to that only. There is no difference. Let's see some practical example. So let's start with equals to operator. Let me copy this heading. And here into the VS Code, let me put this heading. So first we are going to talk about equal to operator, which is used to compare two values. And if the values are equal, it will return true. Otherwise, it is going to return false. You can compare numbers. You can compare string. You can compare Boolean value. Let's see that quickly. So with the comparison operator, we can compare two values. Either we can directly compare those values or we can save those values inside variables and then we can compare those values. Let's quickly create two variables and then we would be putting values inside it and then we are going to do the comparison. So let me create one variable, let. Here I'm giving variable name as A. You can give any variable name. It should be meaningful. For now, just for the practice purpose, I'm giving A and B. So let A and here we can define the type. So it is number equals to 3. Then let's create one more variable. Let B colon number equals to 7. So now we have these two numbers and now we can compare these two numbers. Here first we are going to compare that these two numbers are equal or not. For that I would be using console log so that we are able to see the output. Let's use this console.log and here let's compare these two variables which are having values which are 3 and 7. So here I am giving A triple equals to B. That's it. And now let's run the code. Provide this command, hit enter. And see we have got false because these two numbers are not equal. Let's say if both the values are same, A equals to 3 and B equals to 3, so in that case we would be able to see true. See here I have executed it and we have got true. So like this you can compare any two values that they are equal or not. And similarly we also have one more comparison operator which is not equal to. Let's use that. So here again I will put one console.log and here we will provide not equals to operator. So first variable A and for not equals to we need to put exclamation sign and double equals to. And then we need to provide the second variable or value. And now what will happen? It will compare number A and B. And for now both are having value 3 which are equal. But here we are trying to compare that A not equal to B. So in that case we should be able to see false. Let me comment out this equal to part. And now let's run the code. Let's provide the command, hit enter. And see we have got false because 3 not equal to 3 which is false, right? If there would be some value which are not equal, let's say I put 9 here. So in that case we should be able to see true. Let's execute the code and see we have got true. And now here we have compared number with equal to and not equal to. But similarly we can compare strings also. Let's see that quickly. Let me comment out this part. And now to compare the string, let me create two variables. So let val1 or value 1 and then its type I will put as string equal to, and here let's provide WishInfinite. Similarly let's create one more variable which is let val2 then colon string which is its type equals to, and here let's put u2. And now let's compare these two strings. So for that again I would be using console.log and here let's compare val1 equal to val2. So val1 triple equal to val2. And what will happen now? So these two strings are equal or not? These are not equal, right? And we should be able to see false here. Let's run the code, provide the command, hit enter, and see we have got false. But if these two strings are equal, we should be able to see true. Let me put same strings here. And now let's run the code and see we have got true. So like this, you can compare any two strings. For now, we have used equal to operator. Similarly, we can use not equal to operator for strings also. Let's do that quickly. Again, let's put console.log and here val1 not equal to, which is exclamation sign and double equal to, and then val2. That's it. Let me comment out this first equal to comparison, and now let's run the code. So it will compare val1 with val2, and here for now both the values are equal. So we should be able to see false because we are comparing val1 not equal to val2, which is false. Let's run the code and see we have got false. And you can try changing these values and you should be able to see different output. And now let's talk about greater than operator. For now, let me comment out the string part. We would be using numbers for further comparison. So for now we have a equal to 3 and b equal to 9. Now let's use greater than operator. So now let's again use console.log, and here we need to provide first number greater than second number. So let's compare a, then we need to put this operator, which is greater than operator, which is an arrow. It is open at left hand side and close at right hand side. And here what we are trying to do, we are trying to compare a, which should be greater than, and after the operator we need to put b. So what we are saying, that a should be greater than b. And here a is having 3, b is having 9, which means a is not greater than b, and we should be able to see false. Let's run the code and see we have got false. Like this, you can compare any two numbers. Similarly, we have less than operator. Let's use that. So again, let me comment it out. Again, let's provide console.log, and here we need to provide the first variable a and then less than operator, which is this arrow, which is closed at left hand side and opened at right hand side. So after this operator, we need to provide b, and what we are saying, a should be less than b. This is less than operator. And now let's run the code. And now a is 3, b is 9, which is a is less than b, and we should be able to see true. Let's run this code and see we have got true. And now similarly, we have greater than equal to and less than equal to operator. Let's see greater than equal to operator first. Let me comment it out. Let's again use console.log, and here let's compare these two numbers only. So a, and here we want to compare greater than equal to. For that, we need to put this greater than symbol, then equal to symbol. And after that, we need to put the second variable, which is b. So what we are doing, we are comparing a should be greater than equal to b. So in this case, a is 3, b is 9. So 3 is greater than 9, which is false. 3 is equal to 9, which is also false. So in both the cases, we are going to get false only. Let's run the code and see we have got false. But now let's change value of 3 to 9. So now a is 9 and b is also 9. And here what will happen? It will compare 9 is greater than 9, which is not true, but 9 is equal to 9. So in this case, we should be able to see true. Let me run the code and see we have got true, because 9 is equal to 9. 9 is not greater than 9, but it is equal to. And now let's use less than equal to. Let me comment it out. Let's again put console.log, and here again let's provide two variables. So a and less than operator, which is this arrow symbol, closed at left hand side, opened at right hand side, and then equal to operator. And after that, we need to provide second variable. So what we are doing, we are comparing a should be less than equal to 9. So here in this case, a is 9 and b is 9. So a is not less than b, but a is equal to b. So we should be able to see true. Let's run the code and see we have got true. Similarly, let's put some different values. Let's give a equal to 3 and b equal to 9. And in this case, a is less than b. So again, we should be able to see true. Let's run this code again and see we have got true. So like this, you can compare values. You can use equal to operator, not equal to operator, greater than, less than, greater than equal to, and less than equal to. So at any place during testing also, when you want to compare two values, you would be using this. And usually we would be using these two operators with the conditions or while during some validation. For now, let me comment out this part. And now let's talk about next section, which is logical operators. It is used to combine multiple conditions. It helps create more complex decision-making logic. So here we have three types of logical operator, which are AND, OR, NOT. So let's start with this AND operator. So here what we would be doing, we would be combining multiple conditions. Let's see the example quickly. Let me copy this title. Let's go to VS Code. Here let's put separator, and let me provide this command, which is logical operator. So now let's first create two variables. Here let me create one variable, let age, and then its type would be number, equals to, and here we can put any value. Let's give 28 here. And here let's create one more variable, let is logged in, and then its type I will give as Boolean, which is equals to true. And now let's create two conditions using two conditional operators. Let me use console log quickly so that we would be able to see the output. Console.log. And here first what we want to see, that we want to compare age should be greater than equals to 18. So age greater than equal to 18. And also we want to compare that user should be logged in. So for that we have created this variable which is logged in. So both the conditions should be true. That's what we want. And in that case we should be able to see true. So for that we would be using this AND operator, which is double ampersand sign. And then we need to use this is logged in. Here you can give triple equals to true or false. But for now, as it is Boolean, we can directly give it. So either it will return true or will return false, right? And this will also return either true or false. So if both the conditions are true, so in case of AND operator, if both the conditions are true, we should be able to see true. Otherwise, we will be getting false. So in this case, age is 28, which is greater than 18, and is logged in is true. So both the conditions are true, so we should be able to see true here. Let's run the code quickly and see we have got true. Now let me change this value to 15. So now age is 15, so 15 is greater than equal to 18, which is false, and is logged in is true, which is true. But now if any one of the condition is false, in case of AND operator, we would be getting false. Let's run the code and we should be able to see false. So either this condition can be false or this condition can be false, we are going to get false. And if both the conditions are false, so obviously we are going to get false only. You can try changing these values. You can compare different conditions and try this AND operator mode. Now apart from this AND operator, we have OR operator. For that, we need to use double pipe sign. Let's see that quickly also. And what is OR operator? So in case of OR operator, if any one of the condition is true, we are going to get true. But if both the conditions are false, we are going to get false. Let's see that quickly. So console.log, and here we are going to use these two conditions only. So age greater than equals to 18. And then we need to put the OR operator, which is these two pipe sign. And then let's use this is logged in flag. So now in case of OR operator, if both the conditions are true, we are going to get true. If any one of the condition is true, we are going to get true. But if both the conditions are false, we are going to get false. So in this case, age is 15. So 15 is greater than equals to 18, which is false, but this is logged in is true. So now this is false, this is true. And as I told, if any one of the condition is true, we are going to get true. Let's run this code. Let me comment out this and console log. And let's hit enter and see we have got true because this condition was true. But if both the conditions are false, let me put false here for is logged in. So now this condition is false, 15 is greater than equals to 18, which is false, right? And then is logged in is also false. So now we should be able to see false. Let's run the code and see we have got false. So similarly, you can combine multiple conditions and use this OR operator in your scenario. And now we have third logical operator, which is NOT, which reverses the result. So if you have got true, this NOT operator will convert it to false or reverse it. Let's see that quickly. So again, let's put console.log, and here to use the NOT operator, we need to just put exclamation sign. And after that, we can provide any condition. Let's put this same condition, which is age greater than equals to 18. So within parentheses, I have provided this condition. Age is greater than 18. So now 15 is greater than equal to 18, which is false. But now as we have used NOT operator, it will reverse that false to true. Let's run the code quickly. So see, this was false, but as we have used this NOT operator, we have got true. So like this, at any point, if you want to reverse the result, you can simply use this NOT operator. Now let me comment out all these code and let's put separator. And now let's go to next section, which is conditions. So conditions allow the program to make decisions based on true or false results. Syntax is same as JavaScript. We would be using this if and else. Let's see the practical example quickly. Let me copy this heading. Let's go to VS Code and here let's provide this heading. I'm providing these headings so that later when you see the code, you would be able to easily get it. Now let's create one variable first. So let age colon, and here its type is number equal to 18. And now what we want to do, we want to check if age is greater than equal to 18, we want to print adult. For now we are just console logging, but in actual scenarios, you would be writing different code if the condition is true. Let's see the example quickly. So here we need to use this if keyword. So if age is greater than equal to 18. So this is comparison operator, right? Here we saw greater than equal to operator. And like this, you can use any comparison operator or logical operator where we combine two conditions. So whatever which returns true or false, we can put it here. And now after parentheses, we need to put opening and closing of curly braces. And in between, we can write any code. For now, we are just console logging. So if this condition is true, we want to log adult. So let's put console.log, and here I will provide string as adult. That's it. So if age is greater than equals to 18, we will be seeing 18. Otherwise, we will not see anything. So in this case, age is 18, which means 18 is greater than equal to 18, right? It is not greater than, but it is equal to. So which is true, and we should be able to see adult. Let's run it quickly and see we have got adult. And now let me change this value. Let's change it to 9. So now 9 is greater than equal to 18, which is false. So it will not go inside this particular condition, and it will not execute this code. Let's run this code quickly and see we have not got any output. For now we have just used if, but with the if we can also use else. And how to use that? So after this if curly braces, we need to use this else keyword, and then we need not to put any condition. We just directly need to put opening and closing of curly braces. So now what will happen? What we are saying that if this condition is true, so print adult or execute this piece of code which is written inside this opening and closing of curly braces. Else, so if this condition is not true, so in that case use this particular piece of code. And here I will just console log minor, and here let's provide minor as string. And now what will happen? It will get age as 9, and here it will do the comparison. If age is greater than equals to 18, so in this case 9 is greater than equal to 18, which is false. So it will not execute this piece of code, and it will come to this else block, and then it will execute this piece of code. So here what we are doing, we are checking if age is greater than equal to 18, print adult, else print minor. Now let's run the code quickly, hit enter, and see we have got minor. Similarly, if I change the value to 29, and now let's run the code. So in this case, this condition is true, and it will execute this piece of code, which is adult. And as soon as this condition is true, it will execute this code, and now it is not going to execute any further block. So after that, we have this else block, so it did not execute it. We are just able to see adult and not minor. So like this, you can use if else condition. But what if you are having multiple conditions? For an example, we want to compare two numbers. If a equal to b, we want to print that a equals to b. If a is less than b, we want to print a is smaller. If a is greater than b, we want to print a is greater. So let's see that quickly, and for that we would be using else if. Let me comment out this part, and let's create two variables. So here I will use const a colon number equal to 3, then const b colon number equal to 5. You can put any numbers here, or you can compare anything. It is not necessary that you'll have to provide numbers only. And now let's compare it. So first we will use if. Similarly, we have used it previously, right? So if, and then opening and closing of round parenthesis, and here we want to compare a equal to b. So for that, what we would be using? We would be using these comparison operators. So a triple equals to b, and after these parentheses we need to provide opening and closing of curly braces, and here we can put any piece of code. For now we will just console log, so console.log, and here let's print a is equal to b. A is equal to b. And now we have second condition where we want to compare a is greater than b, and if it is so, we want to print a is greater. So let's do that quickly with the help of else if. So for that we need to provide else after the curly braces. So else, and then after space we need to provide if, and after this we need to provide opening and closing of curly braces, and here we are going to compare a is greater than b. So if a is greater than b, what we want to print? We want to print a is greater. So here I will put opening and closing of curly braces, and now let me give this console log, and here I will print a is greater. Similarly, we want to check if b is greater than a. So in that case we want to print b is greater. So for that again we need to use this else, if, and then parenthesis. Here we would be checking b is greater than a, then opening and closing of curly braces, and here we can put any piece of code. For now we are just printing console log. So console.log, and here we want to print b is greater. And like this you can put multiple conditions with this if else if. And let's say if none of the conditions are true, so in that case we want to print invalid number. So for that what we would be doing? We would be using this else block. So if none of the conditions are true, it will go to that else block. So here we just need to put else. Here we need not to put any condition, and then opening and closing of curly braces, and here we would be using console.log, and here let me print invalid number. So now what will happen? Here we are having a equal to 3, b equal to 5. So now it will come here if a is equal to b, which is false, right? 3 is not equal to 5. So it will not execute this piece of code. Then it will come to this condition, which is else if a is greater than b, which is also false. 3 is greater than 5, which is false, right? So it is not going to execute this piece of code also. Now it is going to come to this else if, and here it is going to compare b is greater than a, which means 5 is greater than 3, which is true. So it will execute this piece of code, which will print b is greater, and then this else block is not going to get executed because it will get executed if none of the conditions are true. For now, this one is true, so it will execute it and it will come out of this condition. Now let me quickly run the code and see we have got b is greater. Similarly, let me change the value a equal to 5 and b equal to 5. And now if I will run the code, what will happen? It will come here, it will compare 5 equal to 5, which will give this a is equal to b. After that, it is not going to do any comparison because this condition is true. So it will print this and it will come out. Let me run the code. So here 5 equal to 5 and we should be able to see a is equal to b. Let's run the code quickly and see we have got this one, a is equal to b. But now let's say, and if none of the conditions are true, so it will check top to bottom, and if none of the condition is true, it is going to print invalid number. So like this, you can compare strings, numbers, or any other data type. If you are having one condition, you can use if else. If you are having multiple conditions to compare, and then you want to execute the code, then in that case, you can use if, else if, and else. For now, let me comment this out. Let me put the separator. Now let's talk about next section, which is loops. Loops repeat the same steps multiple times, useful when handling multiple elements or test data. Let's see how we can use loops. So this is same as JavaScript only. Let's go to VS Code and here let's give heading as loops. So now here we are going to see how to create for loop. For that we are taking one example that we want to print number from 0 to 10. Let's see how to do that. For that we are going to use this for keyword. So for and then opening and closing of round parentheses. And in between we need to provide 3 different sections. Then the first section we would be initializing one variable. And for that we need to provide the select keyword, then any variable name. Here we are providing I as a variable name. This is temporary variable which will be available inside the for loop only. Then we want to print number from 0 to 10. So here I will give initial value as 0. After that we need to put this semicolon. And then we want to print number till 10. So here we will have to provide the condition that till which point we want to print that particular number or we want to iterate that loop. So here we will provide I is less than equals to 10. And after that we need to provide the third section where we can increment or decrement value of this I. For that again you need to provide the semicolon and then I++, which means we want to increase the value of I during the each loop by 1. So I is going to start from 0 and every time its value will increase by 1 and it will be executing that loop till this condition. So here we have provided the condition that I should be less than equals to 10. And after these round parentheses we need to put opening and closing of curly braces and here we can console log the number which is I. So we are going to console log the value of I. So let's give that console.log and here let's just provide I. So now what is going to happen? Let's see that. So here our loop will get started from here. Then it will get value of I as 0. And now it will come inside the loop. It will execute the code. For now we have just given console log, but whatever the code which you give here, it will get executed first time, which is for I equals to 0. And it is not necessary that you'll have to provide this I inside the for loop. But for now we want to print the number, so that's why we are giving I with the console log. And then once it executes this particular piece of code which is there inside the for loop, its value is going to get increased by 1. So now value of I will be 1 and then it will be checking this condition that I is less than equals to 10, which is true because it is 1. So again it will come inside the loop, it will print that value. So now this time I was 1 and then again value of I will get incremented to 2. Again it will check this condition and for 2 also this condition is true. Again it is going to execute this piece of code and it is going to do so till value is 10. So for the I as 10 it will come inside this loop because this condition will be true. 10 is less than equals to 10 and in that case it will print this value and then again it will increment the value of this I, which would be 11. And now this condition is going to be false and in that case it is not going to execute the code inside the for loop. That's it. Now let's quickly execute the script. Here let's provide the command, hit enter. And see we are able to get the numbers from 0 to 10. Like this you can initialize it with any value. Let's say if you give 5 here and if you give 20 here, so it is going to print the number from 5 to 20. And here for the conditions you can use any conditional operator. And as I told previously that it is not necessary that we use value of this I inside our for loop. Let's see one example quickly. So now I want to print WishInfinite 10 times. Let's see how to do that. For that again we need to provide this for loop only. So for and then within the opening and closing of parentheses we need to initialize one variable. So let I equals to, we can reuse this I because this I is going to be applicable for this for loop only. After that we need to provide semicolon and then we need to provide the condition. So here I will give I is less than 10 because we are starting from 0, so we are going till 9. So it would be able to execute the for loop for I equals to 0 to I equals to 9. Or you can also do one thing. You can provide 1 here, and here you can provide less than equal to 10. That is also okay. And after that, we need to provide semicolon and then I plus plus. And then let's put opening and closing of curly braces. And here let's console log WishInfinite. So console.log, and here let's print WishInfinite. Let me comment out this part. And now let's execute the code. And see, we are able to get WishInfinite 10 times. Because for loop is going to execute for I equals to 1 initially. It will print this WishInfinite, and then it is going to increase the value of I from 1 to 2. Again, this condition would be true. Again, it will execute this piece of code. And similarly, it is going to happen till I equals to 10. And after that, it is going to come out of the for loop. So like this, you can create the for loop and you can repeat your code a number of times by providing such conditions. Now let me comment this out. And now, while learning array, I told you that we can also fetch all the values of array in one go. And this is where we are going to use for off loop. Let's see how to do that. So for that, let me create one array. So let users is the name of array. And here if you want to provide the type, that you can do. So colon, string, and then opening and closing of square brackets. After that, we need to provide equals to, and then opening and closing of square brackets. And in between, we need to provide different script values. So let's provide ram here, then comma, WishInfinite, comma, again, one string. Here let's give the name as Tom. And like this, you can provide multiple values. Let's give one more value, which is Trump. And now let's create for of loop to extract all the values of an array. And how to do that? So for that, we need to provide this keyword, which is for, and then opening and closing of round parenthesis. And in between, we need to provide const. And then we want to fetch each and every value. So for that, we are providing one variable, which is user, not users. Users is this array. We are just providing one temporary variable. Here you can provide any name. A, B, C, D, I, X, Y, Z, right? But try to be meaningful. And after that, we need to provide off. And then we are going to put name of this array, which is users. And after that, we need to provide opening and closing of curly braces, where we can write any code. For now, let's just console log each value one by one. So for that, again, let's provide this console.log. And here we are just providing user, which is this one. So now let's see what is happening. So here we have got this array. And now we have got this for loop. So now for each user's value, so this users is having 4 values. So for each value, it is going to put its value inside this variable, which is user. And then it is going to execute piece of code for this for of loop. So it will print ram first, right? And then now it will go to the next value. Automatically, it is going to go to the next value. And this time value would be WishInfinite. And here it will print the WishInfinite. And then again, it is going to print Tom, Trump. And after that, it is going to come out of for loop. So it is not necessary that you can just provide console log here. You can provide any code here. Let's say you want to use these values to print some form. So there also you can use it. So it's totally up to you, right? For now, we are just printing these values. You can perform any operation onto this particular item. And it is not necessary that array would be of string type. It can be any array. Here you can store multiple numbers, Boolean values, or any other type. You can also store in an array or tuple or any object inside an array. So that's totally up to you. Now let's quickly run the code. And we should be able to see Ram, WishInfinite, Tom, and Trump. Here, let's hit enter for this particular command. And see, we have got Ram, WishInfinite, Tom, and Trump. And like this, you can iterate through the array and can extract those values. And now let me comment this out. And let's hit enter. And let's provide one separator. And now let's go to next section, which is async and await. So async and await handles tasks that takes time to complete. TypeScript behavior is identical to JavaScript with added return type clarity. Here I will add one example also into the document. So here we need to use the await keyword for the item which are taking time to complete the process. And whenever we use this await keyword for any of the method or function calling, we need to use this async for the function or method inside which we are using this await keyword. So it is same as JavaScript only. There is one change that for the function, we are going to put return type. So during JavaScript also I gave one example. Let me just quickly give that example. For now, we are not going to directly have a look at the practical example. I would put this particular code inside the VS Code so that you have an idea that how to use async and await. For now, let me give one more example. So let's say you have a girlfriend and you made a promise to her that you are going to marry her once you get the job. So now you made the promise and now your girlfriend is going to wait till you get the job. So your girlfriend would be waiting till then you are going to finish the promise, which means you are going to get the job and then you are going to marry her. So in the similar pattern, there are different methods or functions which made a promise. they are going to perform some task. So what we are going to do, whenever we are calling such methods or functions, we are going to use await keyword in front of that we want to wait for that particular task to get completed. And once that task is completed, our execution will go to the next line. And whenever we are using this await keyword inside any function or method, we are going to mark that particular function or method as async. That's it. And mostly you would be using this async and await when you would be using Playwright. You are going to use it at multiple times and you should be aware about it. Otherwise you will get confused. And also if you miss this await keyword at any place, you are going to get error and it is going to take time for you to figure out that where you made the mistake if you don't know that where to use this await keyword. Right? So you should be aware about this concept. When we would be learning Playwright, I would be explaining this concept in more details. For now, let me put this piece of code into the VS Code. And let me provide this heading also. And let's comment out this section. So to comment out, every time I press Ctrl and / after selecting the code. Now let me give one more separator. So // and equals to. Now let's go to the next section, which is interface. So while learning JavaScript, we did not see this particular concept. But here in case of TypeScript, we are going to use this interface. So interface defines the structure of objects. They make test data clean, reusable and easy to maintain. Let's see how to create the interface and then how to use the interface. So here mainly we would be using this particular interface when we use objects. So here while learning objects, we saw that we need to provide opening and closing of curly braces like this. And in between, we would be providing different key value pairs. And here we created one variable where we provided type of the object, that what kind of keys and its value would be there for the specific object. And for such objects only, we are going to use interface. Let's see that quickly. Let me add the heading quickly here. So interface. Now to create the interface, we need to use this keyword, which is interface. After that, you can give any name. So here, let's provide the interface name as user. So we are going to provide type of these interfaces using Pascal casing, where first character of each word would be capital. Let's say if there are multiple words like login page. So in that case, for login, L would be capital and for page, P would be capital and all other character will be small. So that is Pascal casing, right? It is not mandatory to use these casings, but it is recommended to use. I think for such casing, previously by mistake, I've used the name title casing, but actually it is Pascal casing, right? And now after providing the name, we need to provide opening and closing of curly braces. So creation of this interface is very similar to the class. About classes we will see later, but for the class also we provide the keyword class and then we provide the name, and after that we provide opening and closing of curly braces, and in between we write the code. And here in case of interface, we will be providing key and then its type. So for an example, we want to create one variable for user details where we would be having username, password and age of the user. In that case, what we can do, we can provide key name, which is username, and after that we need to put colon and then we need to provide type for this username, which would be string. Then we need to put semicolon. You can also use comma here, it's totally up to you. Then we can use this password and then colon, again its type would be string. Again, let's use the semicolon and then we want age. So age colon and here we need to put number. That's it. And here either you can use comma or semicolon. Let me make this consistent by providing semicolon. Now how to use this interface. So while creating the object, we saw that after providing the variable name, we have provided colon and then we provided type of the object. So this is where the interface is going to come into picture. Because while learning the object, I also told you that if you will provide type while creating the object, it was looking little messy, right? Let me just quickly show that to you. So here we were providing types like this. We were providing opening and closing of curly braces and here we were writing the key name and then its type. But now that we have done inside the interface like this. And now we can directly use the interface to provide type for the specific object. Let's see that quickly. So let's create one variable let, and here you can give any name. Here let me give users or user detail and then we need to provide the type. For that you just need to provide colon and then name of this interface, which is users. Let's copy this and let's provide that here. And then we need to put equals to and here we can provide the object. So opening and closing of curly braces and here we can provide username as the key and its value as any value, right? Here it should be string, so I will provide WishInfinite. Then put a comma, then we have this password, colon, and here let's give password as pass123. And here still we are getting this error because its type is this interface, which is having age also, which should be number, and that we have not provided till now. Let's provide that and this error will be gone. So comma, age, colon, and here let's provide age as 25. So rather than providing the type, after this colon, when we are creating the object, we have got this interface and we have just provided name of interface here. And now other things are same. If you want to fetch the value, you can just simply use this particular name, which is user details dot this key name. Let me just print one value, console.log, and here let's give user details dot username. That's it. Now let me run the code quickly and we should be able to see WishInfinite. See, we have got it. So like this, while creating the object, we can directly create the interface and we can provide name of the interface as type for that particular variable which is storing the object. That's it. So this way is much cleaner, reusable and easy to read. In that case, it was difficult, right? Because in the same line we were providing one type and then after that we were providing that object with the values. So in that case, code was little messy. But now it is cleaner way. So while creating our test data into the automation, we can use such interface multiple times. So for objects and test data, interface is most common approach. But it is not mandatory to use, right? You can also provide type directly here, like we previously did. But we should prefer more cleaner way, which is this one. Now let me comment out this particular part. Let's provide the separator. Now let's talk about next section, which is type, which is alternative to interface. Type is another way to define data structure, often used in custom types or limited value set. Let's see that how to use this type quickly. So here we have used interface. In the similar pattern, we can also use type. So when we would be creating the object, on place of interface, we can also provide type. Let's see that quickly. Here let me put one heading which is types. So // and types. And now let's create one type. So types, when we are saying we would be creating one type and on place of interface, we are going to provide that type name here. Let's see that quickly. So to create the type, what you need to do, you need to use one keyword which is type. Here also let me give the heading as type only. And then we can provide any name. Here let's provide the same name as this one, which is user. Here also we are using Pascal casing. And then equals to, and then opening and closing of curly braces. And here we need to provide key and its type, like we did for the interface. So here let me provide this username, colon, and its type would be string. After that, you can either put comma or semicolon. Then password, colon, and its value will be string. I'm creating the same type as the interface only. We would be storing username, password, and age. After that, let's put this semicolon, and then age is the key, colon, and its type is going to be number. That's it. And now we can use this particular type while defining type of the object. Let me quickly do that. So here I will create one object. For that, I will provide let and then any variable name. Let's use this user details only. User details, and then we need to provide the type of the specific object because here we are going to store the object. So for that, we can provide colon, and rather than providing the type directly, which we previously saw while learning objects, or by providing this interface, we can also use type. So we just need to provide this name of type, which is user. You can give any name here, right? And then we need to put equals to, and then opening and closing of curly braces, and here we can put same thing. Username as WishInfinite, colon, and then we need to provide the value as the string, so WishInfinite. Then put a comma. After that, what we need to put? We need to provide this password. See, automatically I'm also getting suggestions also. So password is the key, colon, and its value should be string. Let's provide number here for now. And see, we have started getting errors. The same thing will happen in case of interface also. So if you provide any other data type for the specific key, then also you would be getting an error. That name is not assignable to type string. Let's provide password as pass here or pass12. After that, provide the comma. Here let's provide age, colon, and let's give the age as 35. And then we can use this object in the similar pattern. Just provide the object name dot the key name for which we want to fetch the value. So console.log, and here let's provide this object name which is user details and then the key name. This time let's print this password. So dot and then the key name. That's it. Let me run the code and we should be able to see this password which is pass12. See, we have got this. And I will leave it up to you that what you want to use. You can use interface, you can directly provide object type, or you can use type. So if you see type also here, don't think that that is wrong. Some people may use interface, some people may use type, right? Usually you would be seeing interface, but if you see type also, that is not wrong. Now there is one more scenario where this type can be used. So let's say we have one variable which can only accept three values, value 1, value 2, or value 3. So in that case, we can use type. So we can restrict that user should be able to select only those values. Otherwise, they should be able to see the error. And how to do so? For that, let me first comment out this particular part. And here we need to create one type. So for that, we need to provide this type as a keyword and then its name. Let's give the name of this type as status. you can provide any variable name. And after that, we need to put equals to. And as I told that we have one scenario there, we want only a specific type of values for that variable. So now here we can provide those values. So here let's provide one value which is pass. Then pipe sign, we would be providing second value. It can be any value, right? Here I will provide fail. Then again pipe sign, and here again as the string I am providing skip. Here let's keep it capital F. You can provide any values like this. Now let's create one variable, and with that variable we would be using this particular type. So to create the variable, let's use this keyword which is let, and here I would be creating one variable which is test status. And then we need to provide type of this variable. So colon, and now we are going to provide its type as this status. So here we are instructing that this particular test status should be able to receive only three values, which are pass, fail, or skip. Let's provide one value here. So after providing this type, we need to put equals to, and here you can use double quotes or single quotes as we are going to provide string value. You can also use brackets. Now let's put this double quotes, and see, as soon as I am putting these double quotes, I am getting auto suggestions from the VS Code that either use fail, pass, or skip. So like this, you can give any value out of these three. Let's say I provide test here, and see, we are getting this error that type test is not assignable to type status. And what is type status? So here we are mentioning that it only accepts three values. So wherever type is this particular status, you can give any variable name. So in that case, it will accept only these three values. Like this, you can provide multiple values. Let's say if you want to restrict it to 5 values, so that you can provide. For now, let me provide skip here. And here JavaScript, TypeScript are case sensitive. So don't provide this small s, because casing should also be same. See here again we are getting error that skip is not assignable to type status. It is also suggesting us, did you mean skip with capital S, right? So you can correct these mistakes if you see that. For now, let me provide capital S only. And now you can use these variables. So while learning the Playwright, we would be seeing this particular concept where we would be providing some values for our configurations file. So automatically you would be seeing suggestions. So at any place where you want to restrict the user to enter specific values only, so in that case you can create such type, and then you can define that particular type for the specific variable. So at any place, if you are seeing this, don't get confused, you should be aware about it. For now, let me comment this out. So now you just practice with the interface, with the type, and with this particular type. And as I told, if you directly want to provide the type also, that is also okay. But usually to keep the code clean, either use interface or type. And here, just to restrict the user, you can provide it like this. And now let me provide one separator, and let's go to next section. So in the next section, we are going to talk about classes. These classes groups related data and actions together. They help organize code and structure automation frameworks. While learning automation framework, we would be using such classes. For now, we just need to understand this particular concept. So classes work exactly like JavaScript, just with some types added. Let's see how to create the classes. While learning JavaScript also, we saw that how to create the classes. The syntax is going to be very similar. So now let's go to VS Code. Here let me provide this heading, / and this heading. And now let's create one class. So for that, we need to use the keyword which is class. And after that, we need to provide name of the class. So here I will provide name as login page. And then opening and closing of curly braces. And in between, we can provide the code. So inside these classes, we can provide properties, methods, constructors. And this is where we are going to see our next section, which is methods. So methods are functions defined inside classes. They perform specific action related to that class. So methods are nothing but function. But when we use the term function, so it is not related to the classes. But if any function is related to the classes, we are going to call it as method. The syntax is almost similar. The only thing is that we need not to use that function keyword. Let's see that quickly. So inside the class, we would be creating the method. How to create the method? For that, we need to provide method name. Here I will give method name as login. And then opening and closing of curly braces. And here for the functions also we saw that we can provide the return type. For now, for this particular method, I don't want to provide any return type. So for that, I will give void here, like the functions itself. So colon and void as its return type. And then we need to provide opening and closing of curly braces. And here we can write any code for that particular method. And we can just call these methods to execute this piece of code which we provide here between these two curly braces. For now, let me just put a console log, console.log. And here let's give the log as login called. That's it. We have created our method by providing the name, parenthesis. And then here we have also provided the type. It is not mandatory, but when you are using TypeScript, So I would say use its capacities also, right? And after that, we need to provide opening and closing of curly braces, and in between we can write any code. And here this return type can be of any data type. It can be number, boolean, string, array, object, right? It can be anything. So in the JavaScript, we just did not provide it this type. Apart from that, the syntax was very similar. And as I told, when you are creating the function without this function keyword, right? When you are creating the function which is related to the classes, which is going to have some reusable code. So in that case, we are going to call it as method. See here, if you will mouse over also, you would be able to see method written here. But in case of function, you would be able to see function if you mouse over on its name. That you can check at your end. And apart from the methods, we can also provide properties inside the classes. So while learning constructor, we would be seeing that. It is very similar, right? We will have to just provide the name and then its value also. Or in case of constructor, we would be providing these values inside the constructor. And we are calling it as the property, which is very similar to the variable. Here we are not using let or const, but we are directly providing its name equals to and then value. But when we are using TypeScript, we can also provide type. So here we can put colon after the variable name and then we can provide its type. So in this case, we can provide number. For now, let me comment this out. While learning constructor, we would be seeing that in more detail. Now we have created the classes. We have also seen how to create the method inside the class. We can also declare variable or assign some value inside it. And mostly to assign the value to the property, we use constructor. But like this also you can do. But prefer constructor. Because as soon as we will create the object, we can put values for our properties. And now let's go to the next section, which is objects and method calling. So objects are created from classes. They allow access to the class properties and methods. Methods are executed using the dot operator. TypeScript ensure type safety while accessing them. Now let's see the practical example. So here we have created the class, we have created this method. But now if we will execute it directly, we would not be able to see any output. Let me run this code quickly and see we have got nothing because we have not called this particular method. And how to call this method? So we will say just provide the name and opening and closing of parentheses like functions. Let me quickly do that. So here outside the class, we are going to call it. So we provide this login and then opening and closing of curly braces. And see still we are getting this error. Cannot find name login. And this is where our object will come into picture. So by using the object, we can call these methods or we can access the properties. So how to create the object? Let's see that quickly. Let me remove this. And here let's create one object. So let's provide this const and then you can give any name. Let's give this login page object or login page obj. Here we need to use camel casing, right? As we are creating one variable, which is object. So this is different object, right? It is a classes object. And this was different object where we were storing the values, right? So don't get confused. When we are using object term in terms of classes, so we would be using those objects to access the methods or properties. But here, when we are storing some data, in that case, it is different object where we provide key and value pairs. So don't get confused about it, right? So now we have created this const and then object name. Here we can provide equals to, and then it is very similar to JavaScript only. We need to provide this new keyword and then name of the class, which is login page, this one, and then opening and closing of curly braces. And now our object is ready. For these objects, you can also provide the type. So like this, after the object name, you can just provide colon and then you can provide objects type where you need to provide this class name. That's it. But it is not mandatory to provide this, right? If you want to provide it, so that you can. For now, let me remove it. And now let's use this object to call this method. So how to call this method? For that, we need to provide this object name, which is login page obj, this one, and then we need to put dot. And as soon as you put dot, you would be able to see auto suggestion that this particular class is having one method, which is login. See here we are able to see the name and then its type is method. And this method returns void. So let's provide login here and then opening and closing of curly braces. So now what will happen? As soon as we created the object and by using this particular object, we are calling this method. So this piece of code inside this login method will get used and it will print this login call. Let me run the code quickly and see we have got login call. And in the similar pattern, we can also access these properties. During constructor, we will see that. I will just give you an idea that you need to use this object name dot the property name. It can be any property of that particular class. And to create the methods or to access these properties, we have used this dot operator. So it is very simple concept, right? If you see it, don't get confused. If you are having any trouble, just practice writing the class, writing some multiple methods. And it is not necessary that you can write just one method. You can provide multiple methods inside the class. You can create multiple properties inside the classes. So it's totally up to you. And then you just need to create the object by using this new keyword and then class name and then opening and closing of parentheses. So in short, this class name and the opening and closing of parenthesis, it calls constructor only, which is constructor for this particular class. And now as we have taken name of the constructor, let's talk about the constructor. So with the JavaScript, we have also used the constructor, but here the constructor syntax is similar, but when we would be providing parameter or we would be creating properties, so in that case, we will be providing type. So we are going to see constructor with types. So what is constructor? So the constructor runs automatically when an object is created. It initializes the value and prepare the class for use. Constructor parameters can also have types. Let's see how to create the constructor. So by default, when we create object of this particular class, it calls the default constructor. If you will mouse over onto this particular class name, you would be able to see this is constructor. Here inside the class, you are not able to see that constructor, but that is the default constructor which we get. And now we can create our own constructor also. And how to do that? So inside the same class only, I will create one constructor. For that, we need to provide one keyword which is constructor, this one. And then we need to put opening and closing of round parenthesis and then opening and closing of curly braces. So this is what our default constructor looks like behind the scene. For now, we would be creating constructor, but we would be providing some parameters also. So with this constructor, let's accept one parameter. I will provide one parameter as name val or name value. And here we can also provide the type. So it is very similar to the functions only, right? We provide the parameter name, colon, and then we provide its type. Here, this name value would be string. So we are providing that. And now previously I told you that we would be declaring some properties and then we would be providing the values for those properties inside the constructor. Let's see how to do that. So we can declare properties directly inside the class. So after class name and then in between of opening and closing of curly braces, we can declare the properties. And how to do so? So for that, we need to provide name of that property. So it is very similar to the variable I told you, right? So here, let's create one variable or property as name value, right? We need to call it as property, not variable, because with the variable we use that let const, right? That we are not using. And as it is related to the classes, we are calling it as property. Then after providing this property name, we need to provide its type. So here let's provide this colon and then string. And here for now we are getting an error that property name value has no initializer and is not definitely assigned in the constructor. So that's why we are getting this particular error. But now we would be initializing this value inside the constructor. Let's quickly see that, how to do that. So to initialize this particular variable inside the constructor, we are going to use this keyword. So this dot, and then we are going to access this name value. See, automatically we are getting this suggestion. So this dot name value equals to, and we want to put this particular name value or name val there. That's it. And usually you would be seeing that this property name and the parameter name is same. So in that case, the name which we are providing with this keyword is our property. And directly if we are using it, so that is our parameter. So don't get confused, right? Here also we can provide it as name value. See, name value in this case, here also I will have to replace it. So this name value is our parameter and this dot name value is our property. That's it. Let's declare one more property, and here I will give property name as company, then colon, and then we need to provide its type, which would be string only. Here you can provide any type. It can be number, boolean, or any other data type. And here also we are getting same error that either initialize the value here or initialize it within the constructor. You can also do like this, right? Equals to any value like Google. But usually when we are initializing the properties, so it is preferred to use constructor. Let me remove this part and let's initialize it within the constructor. So for that, again, we need to use this keyword dot, then company, which is our property, and here equals to, and here either directly we can put the value or we can accept it as the parameter. So it's totally up to you how you want to use it. For now, I will directly provide YouTube here. That's it. So now our constructor is ready. For that, we have used this constructor keyword. Here we have provided parameters, which means this constructor accepts the parameter. And here within opening and closing of curly braces, we can put any code. Here we can put console log also, right? For now, we are just initializing its value. Let me put one console log also here. So console.log, and here I will print inside login page constructor or login pages constructor. And here like this, you can put any code. It is not necessary that you would be just initializing the value. You can put any code inside the constructor also. But remember that particular piece of code will get executed as soon as you create the object. And now here, if you have observed, we are getting this particular error that it accepts one argument but got 0. So in case of TypeScript, now we cannot use default constructor. We will have to provide this particular constructor only. While creating the object, when we are providing this new and then the class name, which is constructor, here within the parenthesis, we will have to provide the argument for these parameters. So here let's provide name value as WishInfinite. If you will mouse over, see it will show that an argument for name value was not provided. And previously also I told you that when you create a method or function and when you provide that what kind of parameters it will accept, we call them as parameters. But when you call that particular method, so whatever the value which we provide for the parameter, we call that argument. So don't get confused, right? You should be aware that what is argument, what is parameter. Although no one is going to ask about it, but you should be aware for your own. And now let's provide this name value as the WishInfinite here. So when we are creating this object, what we did, we have provided this const and then object name equals to new, and then to call the constructor, we just directly need to provide the class name, which should be as it is, right? L is capital, P is capital, and we have provided login page. So we need to provide the exact same name as class name. If you will make this L as a small, it will show us error. So you cannot find this login page, right? So we need to provide the exact same name. And now let's provide WishInfinite within the parenthesis, and our error will be gone. And that's it. Now we have created our object by using the parameterized constructor which we created. By using this object, we can also access these properties. Let me quickly do that. Let me put one console log. So console.log, and here we can provide this login page object dot, and here we can access these properties also, which are company and name value. Let's access this name value. And also in the similar pattern, let's access company name, which is company. So object.company. That's it. And now let me run this code. So provide this command, hit enter. And see, we have got these values printed. So first we have got this inside login page constructor. Why so? Because as soon as we created this object, the code inside the constructor is going to get executed. Which means you can understand it like this, that we have called this constructor. So whenever you are creating object of any class, it is going to automatically execute its constructor. So first we have got inside login page constructor. After that we have provided this WishInfinite, right? Which is this name value. So this name value will get assigned to this property, which is name value of our class, which is a string. Here you cannot provide number. Let's say if I try to provide 2 here. So again we would be getting an error that argument of type number is not assignable to parameter of type string, right? So be aware that we are using TypeScript and we have already provided the type for this parameter. So this is where TypeScript is helpful, right? While writing the code, during compile time we are getting these errors. So we do not see such errors while executing the code during runtime. And here for this company also, we have assigned this value which is YouTube. So this dot company and YouTube. And then what happened? We have used this object to call this login method. As soon as we call this login method, we are printing this login called, which is this one. And here we are also trying to access properties of this particular classes by using the object name dot property name. Here we are just console logging. So that's why it is printing name value which is WishInfinite like this. And here we are accessing the company name which is YouTube, and we are just console logging it from here. And now our whole class is ready. We created the class. We can put methods inside the class like this. We can declare variables. We can assign the values to them. We can create constructor where we can provide the parameters with the type, and then we can assign the values to our properties inside the constructor. And apart from that, we can also put any code inside the constructor or in any of the methods. And to access these methods or properties, we just need to create the object by using this new and then this constructor, which is a class name, and then parenthesis with the parameter value. And once we get the object, by using this dot operator, we can access the methods or the properties. And one thing to remember, as soon as you create the object of the class, your code inside the constructor is automatically going to get executed. That's it. So it is very simple concept. Just practice it so that you would be having good hands-on about it. And for now, let me comment out this particular part, and let's put one separator. So // and then sum equals to. And now let's talk about our next section, which is import and export. Import and export split code into multiple files. This improves project organization and maintainability. It is having same behavior as JavaScript only. So in the actual project, we would not be using single file. We would be using multiple files. And this is where this import export concept will come into picture. And it is similar to the JavaScript only, but let's go through it again. If you have watched JavaScript related video, you would be able to see the same thing only here. But here, this time we are going to use TypeScript. So wherever it is possible to provide the type, we would be providing that. That's it. For now, let me create one simple class here. So to create the class, what we need to do? We need to provide this class, which is a keyword, and then the class name. Again, let's use this login page only. So login page, and then opening and closing of curly braces. And in between, we can provide any method or property. Let's create one method here. So login. Again, I will provide opening and closing of parentheses, then opening and closing of curly braces. And here, as we are using TypeScript, we can also provide the return type. Here, let's provide it as void only. Now, let's put one console log here. So console.log and then login called. Here, if you want to create a variable or you want to create the constructor, that you can do. But for now, we are going to focus mainly onto the import and export. So now our class is created. And now we have the case that we want to use these methods or properties of these classes inside any other file. Let me create one more file. So right click new file, and here I will give file name as file2, or you can give any file name, right? After that, dot and then file extension, which is ts. That's it. Hit enter. And now to access these methods, we saw that we need to create object of these classes. How to create that? Let's do that quickly. So we need to provide this const and then object name. Here I am just providing this obj equals to new, and then we need to provide name of the class, which is login page, and then opening and closing of curly braces. And now we have our object. Let's use this object. Object dot, here we are providing this login, which is the method inside the login page. And now let's first quickly run this particular file using our command, which will compile the TypeScript and then we'll execute this file. Let's do that quickly. And now for this file 2, let's run it. So here now what we need to do, we need to provide this tsc and then file2.ts and then double ampersand and then node file2.js. And now let's hit enter. Oops, I made a mistake. It should be tsc. There's a typo error. Let me put this tsc, and now again let's hit enter. And see, we are getting this error. Cannot find name login page. Why so? We are having this particular class here, right? But here, as we are trying to create or access this login page inside the second file or inside any other file. So that's why we are getting this particular error. So how to resolve this error? So this is where our import and export is going to come into picture. So whenever we are creating a class or function, so we can export it. How to export it? So we just need to provide export keyword here. That's it. And now we can use this class inside any other file. And how to use that? So in that case, we will have to use this import keyword. Let's see that. So here we need to provide this import. And here within the curly braces, we need to provide the name. Here we need to provide our class name because we have exported that. So login page. And after that, automatically ID entered this. So after this curly braces where we have written the class name, we need to provide this from. And then within the quotes, we need to provide path of the specific file, then /, then file name. That's it. If you have kept this particular file inside any folder, so you will have to provide path accordingly. And now we can run the code again. And this time we should be able to execute this login method, which will print this login call. So in this case, we are just console logging, but you can execute any piece of code. Now let's provide this command, which is tsc file2.ts double ampersand node file2.js. Let's hit enter and see we are able to get this login call. Similarly, we can also access the properties. Let me create one property, a equals to 20. For now, I'm not creating the constructor. I'm just showing this concept to you. And now let's access this value of a. So here, let's go to file2. Here, let's use this object dot and then the property name, which is a. And here, let's console log it. So I will put this object dot a into the console log. Here, between the parentheses, let's provide this object dot a. Now let's run the code. And see, we have got this login called and this 20. And here, if you have noticed, we need not to run this particular file, right? Automatically, when we are running it, so this file is also getting compiled and its code is getting converted into JS. If you will see this .js file, see, we have got this property here. Although we have not compiled its TS file. Although when we would be using Cypress or Playwright, we are not going to use these commands. But just to understand the TypeScript or JavaScript, we are using such commands or code runner. But at least you should be aware that how to run the code, right? Otherwise, we will just writing the code here, right? For now, let me close it. And here, one thing to add. So whenever we export something, we can export it as default one. Here we can write default. And whenever we are providing default while exporting, so while importing that, we need not to provide these curly braces. See here, we are getting this error that this TypeScript-practice has no exported member login page. Why so? Because we have put these curly braces. Let me remove them and see that error is gone. And if I execute the code, so let's provide this command for the file to hit enter, and we should not see any error. And here see, automatically this file also got compiled, where this login page export is default. So if you export something as default, so remember that you need not to use curly braces. And anywhere if you see curly braces, you should know that that is exported normally and not the default one. And if any place you do not see curly braces, you should be aware that while exporting it, default keyword is also used. When you would be using Playwright or Cypress, you would be using this import keyword at multiple places. Where we would be using predefined function or classes, we would be just importing them. So that's why you should be aware about this import and export concept. While taking data from the JSON or from CSV file, there also we would be using this import, right? So now you are already aware about this import, and it should be easy for you when we use this import statement at multiple places while learning automation. For now, let me comment out that curly braces part so that you are aware about it. Let's comment out this, and let's put this particular line for now as we are using this default keyword here. And here one more thing I would like to cover, which is statement termination. So in JavaScript or TypeScript, we can terminate the statement by providing a semicolon. So after any statement, you can just put a semicolon to terminate that particular statement. And adding these semicolon is totally optional. So if you want to provide this semicolon after the statement, you can provide it. And if you want to remove it, you can totally remove it, right? And I would suggest that be consistent. If you are providing this semicolon, so provide it after each statement. If you are not providing it, so simply remove it from everywhere. Although you can provide it for one line and you can remove it for other line, right? But I would suggest be consistent, right? If you are not providing it, that is totally optional. Usually if you are from the Java background, it is mandatory to provide these semicolons, right? But in case of JavaScript, you need not to provide it. JavaScript will take care of it. For now, I will remove it. And now let me comment out this part and let's put a separator. So // and some equals to. And now this much TypeScript is sufficient. And now I just want to discuss few points related to TypeScript versus JavaScript. Because for this, I get multiple questions onto my videos. That what is the difference between TypeScript and JavaScript? What we should use? This video is in TypeScript. How do I convert it using JavaScript? So now if you have watched JavaScript and TypeScript related video, then most of the confusion will go away. So you just need to remember something very important. If you remove all the types, TypeScript becomes normal JavaScript. So don't be scared. It's just JavaScript with extra safety. So TypeScript is not a new language, right? It is simply JavaScript with additional type safety. Removing the types makes it normal JavaScript. Don't overthink about it, right? If you are seeing any TypeScript tutorial also, you would be able to correlate that how to convert it into the JavaScript. If you are seeing any JavaScript related tutorial, you will be able to correlate that how to convert that code into TypeScript code. And once you watch both the videos which I've created, the JavaScript for automation tester and the TypeScript for automation tester, all the doubts will go away. And you would be able to start your automation journey without any doubt. And even though if you get any doubt, feel free to reach out to me, right? Don't get hesitated. I reply to each and every comment personally. So now that's it. For automation testing, you only need these many topics which we just discussed. That's it. Nothing advanced required. And now I will conclude this video here. But before we wrap up, let me give you a quick recap. So here into this video, we saw that what is TypeScript, why TypeScript for automation, and what is the core idea behind the TypeScript. We define the types. And TypeScript is JavaScript with types. That is one sentence you need to remember. After that, we saw that there are different prerequisites like Node.js, VS Code, and TestCafe which we need to install. How to install it? For that, I've already shown you that you need to search for Node.js download and VS Code download the specific files, and then install it. To install the TypeScript, we need to give the command which is npm install -g and then TypeScript. That's it. After doing all the prerequisites installation, we saw different topics. So for that, let me quickly go back to the VS Code so that I would be able to show the code to you. So here we saw that how to create the variables. There we have used const and let to create the variables. When we are using const, we cannot change its value later, right? When we are using let to create the variable, we can change the value of that variable later also. And here, as we are using TypeScript, we need to define the type when we are creating any variable. For that, we need to put colon and then type of the variable. Like this, here we have created the string, so we have provided string here. Like this, you can provide any other data type. And then we talked about data type, that there are different types of data type. So data type can be string. For that we need to provide this colon and then string. After that we can provide the string by using the single quote, double quotes or the backticks. When we are using single quotes or double quotes, so if we want to concatenate a string with the variable, in that case we will have to use this plus sign. Otherwise, if we are using backticks, so we'll have to just provide dollar and then opening and closing of curly braces, and in between we can use any variable. And we need to write these things within the backticks only. Apart from that, we saw number data type like this, Boolean data type, right? We also saw that how to create the array, how to fetch the value of array by using the index number. If we want to create an array of a specific type, we will have to provide this string and then opening and closing of square brackets. And if we want to put anything inside an array, we can just provide its type as any. There we can store any type of data inside an array, and we call such array as tuple. Here we have seen the alternative method to create an array, where rather than using data type and these square brackets, we can provide this array as the keyword and then angular braces, and in between we can provide the data type. So only this part is different. Apart from that, creating an array and then accessing its value is very similar. After that, we saw that how to create the object. For that, we need to provide opening and closing of square brackets, and in between we can provide key and value pair. And when we are creating such objects, so whenever we are creating that variable, we can also define its type. Like here we have provided curly braces, and in between we provided username and its type, password its type, and age its type. And like this you can define the type for the specific object variable. And now to access it, we just need to use this dot operator. So the object name dot the key name which we want to access, so we will be getting its value. Then we saw that how to create the function. So either we can use this function keyword and then the function name parenthesis. After that we can provide this return type by providing colon and return type, and in between we can write any code by providing opening and closing of curly braces and then provide the code inside it. And to call these functions, we just need to give the name of the function and then opening and closing of parenthesis. Apart from this traditional way, we can also use the modern way, where we can use arrow function. So to arrow function, this is the syntax. We need to provide opening and closing of parenthesis, colon, its return type. Then we need to use this arrow symbol, equals to and greater than. And then within the opening and closing of curly braces, we can write any code which we want to put inside the function. And now we can assign this value inside one variable, which would be our function name. So const, and here the function name. And in the same way, we can call this method. We just need to provide the name and opening and closing of round parenthesis. We also saw that we can provide the parameters inside the function, where we just need to provide the parameter name, colon, and its type. Similarly, we can also provide the return type. Till then, we were returning this void, but we can also return anything. Like here, we have written the number. So after the function parenthesis, we need to provide colon and its number. Here we have used arrow function, but if you have used this function also, so in that case, you will have to just provide colon and its return type. When we call these parameter methods, we will have to provide argument for these parameters. And in case of return type, whenever we call these functions, we will be getting return value from that function that we can save inside the variable. We can use those values. Here we also saw that we can create the function with the optional parameter. So if you pass the argument for those parameters, it will take its value. Otherwise, it is not mandatory to pass the argument for such parameters. For that, you just need to provide this question mark. Then we saw the arithmetic operators, where we saw plus, minus, multiply, division, and modulus operator. Apart from that, we also saw comparison operator, where we saw equals to, not equals to, which we have used onto the numbers and onto the string. Then we saw greater than, less than, greater than equals to, and less than equals to. So like this, you can compare values. Apart from that, we also saw logical operators, where we can combine multiple conditions, where we saw that we can use AND operator, OR operator, and NOT operator. So in case of AND operator, both the conditions should be true, then only it will return true. If any one of the condition is false, it will be returning false. In case of OR operator, at least one of the conditions should be true. So in that case, we would be getting true. But if both the conditions are false, we will be getting false in that case. And in case of NOT operator, it just reverses the output. So we are getting true, so it will reverse it to false, and vice versa. Then we saw the conditions that we can use if else, where with the if we provide the condition. If this condition is true, it will execute that particular piece of code which is with the if block. If that is not true, it will execute this else block. If you have not provided the else block, it will come out of that if. It will just check the if condition, and if it is true, it will go inside. If it is not true, it will come out. We also saw if we are having multiple conditions, we can provide them like this by using if else if. So here we have provided if this condition is true, execute this piece of code, else if this condition is true, execute this piece of code. And like this, we can provide multiple conditions. And at the end, we can provide this else. So if none of the conditions are true, so it will execute this piece of code. After that, we saw that how to create the loop. So here we created the for loop. For that, we need to use this for keyword. Then we need to provide these three sections where we initialize the variable, we provide the condition, and then we increment the value of the variable. Like this, we printed the numbers, we printed text multiple times. So like this, you can create the for loop, and then you can execute any code inside those for loop multiple times. We also saw to extract all the values from an array, we can use for of loop. For that, we created one array, and here we have used for of loop. So for const, and then here you can provide any variable of this particular array. So it will iterate through this particular array for each value, and we should be able to access this value by using this temp variable. Then we saw about async and await. So whenever any method or function is taking some time to complete the process, we need to use this await keyword. And whenever we are using await keyword, we need to use async for that particular function inside which we are using await keyword. That's it. No need to overthink about this. When we will learn automation tool, we would be learning about it in more detail. After that, we saw interface, that we can create the interface by using this interface keyword, then its name, and then within the opening and closing of curly braces, we just need to provide the key name and its type. And then when we are creating an object where we provide key name and its value, we can just define the type by using this interface. Like here, we have used this particular interface. So previously, while creating the object, we were providing the same thing here, right? But now we can simply replace it with the interface name. And here, in the similar pattern, we can access the value of the object, right? We just need to provide this name and then keys name, and we will be getting the value. Similarly, we saw that we can also use type. For that, we need to provide this type keyword and then type name equals to, and then we can create this type. There we would be providing key name and its type. And like this, we can provide multiple key name and its type inside the object. And now we can directly use this type name while creating an object like we have used here. So either you can use interface or you can use type. If you see any one of the way, you should be aware about it, right? And now to access the value, the same syntax is there, variable name dot the key name. Apart from that, we can also use this type to provide a specific set of values. Let's say we want a specific variable to accept only these three values. So in that case, we can create this type like this. And here we can provide this variable's type as this one. So now this variable will accept only these three values. Apart from that, if you enter any value, you would be able to see error during compile time only. Then we saw how to create the class by using this class keyword, then the class name in the Pascal casing, and then within the opening and closing of curly braces, we can provide method. For the method, what we did, we have provided method name, parenthesis, and then return type by providing this colon and its type. Then within the opening and closing of curly braces, we can provide any code for that particular method. And whenever we want to call the method, what we need to do, we need to create the object of this class. And how to do that? So for that, we just need to provide const object name equals to, and then we need to provide new, and then class name, which is kind of constructor, right? Class name and opening and closing of parentheses, which will call the default constructor, but we can also create our own constructor. For that, we just need to use this constructor keyword. There we can provide parameters also with the type. And after that, we can provide these opening and closing of curly braces, and in between, we can write any code. Here, we also saw that we can provide the properties inside the classes. Here we declared the properties, and then we initialized its value inside the constructor. We created this name value and company, and then we provided its value inside the constructor. This name value we provided by using the parameter. This company value we provided directly. And now, once we create a parameterized constructor, we will have to create the object using that particular constructor only. Here we cannot use default constructor in case of TypeScript. So for that, we have provided this constructor by providing the class name and then opening and closing of parentheses. In between, we provided argument for the specific parameter. And now we can simply use this object to access the methods inside the class or to access any property. After that, we also saw that if we are using multiple files, we will have to use import and export. So whenever we are creating any class or function, so we can export it by using this export keyword, and then in the second file, we can just simply import it. So for that, we need to use this import keyword, and then the name from, and here within the quotes, we need to provide path and the file name. Here we are seeing any error because we have commented out this particular part, right? And now everything is similar. We can just create object, and then we can call methods or properties of that particular class. If you are using function, you would be able to use that function. And as I told, we are going to use this import and export concept at multiple places while learning automation. For now, let me comment out this part also. I will be putting all these files onto my Git repository. So if you want to access it for your practice purpose, you can do that. And as I told previously, don't get confused, right? TypeScript is just JavaScript with some extra safety. So if you remove all the types, you get the JavaScript. If you put types, you get TypeScript. Very simple concept, right? And if you are seeing any tutorial, you would be able to get that now. And now that's it from my end. You can click onto this first card to go to the next video. You can click onto the second card to access the full playlist. And stay tuned for my upcoming videos. If you have any comments, questions or doubts, you can let me know into the comments below. Please like, share and subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much. Have a great day.